Chapter 7:15. When Duan Jinghong returned to China, because she needed to meet with Song Xian, she split up from the rest of the group and boarded a flight on her own. Song Xian said she was going to hold a welcome party for her, so she was waiting outside the airport. However, Duan Jinghong had already arrived in front of Song Xian, but she did not recognize her. In the past, Duan Jinghong was always dressed in sportswear or gender-neutral clothing. Since when did she ever wear jeans, a trench coat, and high heels? Most importantly, Duan Jinghong suddenly had an outstanding aura. In comparison, Song Xian felt that her casual outfit made her look more like Duan Jinghong's follower. How did you suddenly get so good at dressing up? Perhaps even Song Xian herself didn't realize that her words carried a hint of jealousy. I didn't know how to tidy myself up in the past. Since I went to South Korea, I decided to learn a few things. What do you think? Not bad, right? Duan Jinghong asked with a smile. I'm still used to the old you. Song Xian couldn't tell Duan Jinghong that she couldn't be prettier than her, so she could only tactfully say that Duan Jinghong's outfit didn't suit her. Duan Jinghong knew what Song Xian was thinking, but she pretended not to care. She opened the car door and sat beside Song Xian. Where are we going next? I haven't heard from Tongning recently. Have you heard anything? The first person Song Xian asked Duan Jinghong about was Tongning. Although she didn't know why she asked Duan Jinghong, she knew that Duan Jinghong wouldn't know. Perhaps she was too desperate to know how Tongning was doing. In reality, Duan Jinghong did know, but she couldn't possibly tell Song Xian. Don't you know this better than me? Why did you suddenly ask me? I was just asking casually, Song Xian said. By the way, I received the verdict from Hairue today. Although I suffered quite a bit of loss, at least I've left Hairue and I'm free. Let's go have a drink to celebrate my freedom. Okay, Duan Jinghong replied casually. It had only been a month or two, but the world seemed to have changed a lot. She was no longer a small-time manager that Song Xian could casually use. She had now debuted as one of the most eye-catching girl groups in Hairue. Perhaps it was because of Duan Jinghong's outfit, or perhaps it was because of the change in her temperament, but as soon as they entered the familiar and safe bar, many men had their eyes on Duan Jinghong and completely ignored Song Xian. You're too ostentatious. You should change into your old clothes. Otherwise, if someone finds out that I'm drinking here, it'll be headline news again. Song Xian was quite dissatisfied. She felt uncomfortable in her heart, especially when she saw that the follower beside her was actually more attractive than her. That feeling of defeat made her feel like 1,000 ants were biting her back. Who was Duan Jinghong? How many years had he been with Song Xian? How could he not know what she was thinking? So, she just smiled in the dark. I'm already dressed in the simplest way. Why don't we go to your house and drink? Song Xian didn't want to lose to Duan Jinghong again, so she nodded her head. Okay, my grandfather hasn't seen you in a long time. After that, the two of them walked out of the bar and headed for the Song family. After entering the house, Song Xian's confident smile quickly returned to her face. Even though Duan Jinghong had become prettier, she would never have a grandfather that was a government official, nor would she have such a good background. The two women entered Song Xian's bedroom as usual. Song Xian pulled out a glass of red wine from the wine cabinet and poured it for Duan Jinghong. I'm really happy that we can go back to how we were before. Duan Jinghong received the wine glass and clinked glasses with Song Xian. However, after a few glasses of red wine, Song Xian suddenly stood up from the carpet and said to Duan Jinghong, I bought a lot of new clothes. I even received some from fans. I won't be able to wear them all. Bring some home later. Duan Jinghong watched as Song Xian busied herself and finally realized how Song Xian had been trying to find a sense of superiority over her all these years. She had been relying on charity. Duan Jinghong did not immediately react. She simply held her chin and said to Song Xian, Leave them here. I'll bring them home later. Seeing that Duan Jinghong had not changed, Song Xian finally relaxed and returned to her side. Xiao Yuha has decided to open an agency for me. That way, we will have more freedom. Not bad. Duan Jinghong nodded. No matter what, Jinghong. Welcome back. Song Xian stretched out her arms and hugged Duan Jinghong. I really need you. Let our friendship last forever. Let's fight against the storm at Hai Rue together. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find out any news about Tongning. That bitch should be giving birth soon. You'll find out eventually. Duan Jinghong took a sip of red wine as her eyes flashed with a light that Song Exine couldn't understand. But it doesn't matter. After all, that bitch has already been banned from the entertainment industry. It won't be long before she's past her prime. But, have you heard? Hai Rue has recently formed a girl group. Heard? Duan Jinghong sneered to herself. Not only had she heard, she was also a member. Song Xian told Duan Jinghong a lot of things that had happened in Beijing, but Duan Jinghong already knew about them. Like this, the two women chatted from morning until afternoon. Song Xian originally wanted to drive Duan Jinghong home, but Duan Jinghong directly rejected her. I forgot to tell you that I'm moving. I'll go home and pack a bit first before I give you my address. Although Song Xian was confused, she did not insist. She simply handed Duan Jinghong some new clothes and escorted her out of the house. However, Duan Jinghong threw the luxurious clothes into a bin not too far away from the Song family home. She then gave her agency a phone call, and a nanny van arrived not long after. Duan Jinghong was taken back to the apartment that her agency had arranged for her. As soon as she returned home, the other members of the girl group immediately approached her and asked, "What did the bitch say? Why didn't I think Song Xian was so disgusting in the past? Who told you to be disgusting along with her in the past? It's good that you've learned from your mistakes. Let's give that bitch Song Xian a big present." Duan Jinghong nodded her head and felt a little amused. Did you guys know? Because I changed my appearance, Song Xian felt that I had stolen her limelight. So, she told me to change back into my old clothes. To prove that she was nobler than me, she gave all the clothes that she didn't want to me. Ignore that idiot. Your future is limitless. She's nothing. Let's get ready. Performing in Beijing isn't going to be easy. In order to make Song Xian vomit blood, we need to be in our best condition. The group leader encouraged. You're right. Let's hurry and practice. Chapter 7:16. On the other hand, because Tongning had not given birth yet, the hospital was on high alert. When a pregnant woman exceeded their expected delivery date by more than 2 weeks, their unborn child would be in greater danger. Bai Lihua was well aware of this. So, deep into the night, she whispered to Mo Ting, "We need to prepare medication to hasten the pregnancy. Otherwise, the risk to the unborn child will increase as the pregnancy goes on." After hearing this, Mo Ting turned his head and looked at Tongning, who was lying on the bed in silence. If he had known that there would be so much danger and that Tongning would suffer so much, he would not have wanted to have a child in the first place, and he would not be like he was now. His entire heart was tied to Tongning, and his heart was filled with anxiety. Tongning wasn't actually asleep. After listening to the mother and son's conversation, she struggled to sit up and said in a hoarse voice, "Just do as Mom says. I can get through this." But the stronger Tongning appeared, the more guilty Mo Ting felt. But Tongning still revealed a gentle smile. It was the best comfort in the world. Mo Ting calmed down and nodded his head. "I'll discuss it with the doctor in a bit." After hearing Mo Ting's request, the doctor smiled and explained, "We will decide whether to induce labor based on Mrs. Mo's condition. Don't worry, Mr. Mo. We will do our best to ensure the health of Mrs. Mo and the child in her stomach." Is there anything absolute in this world? As long as there was a risk, Mo Ting would be worried. "Ting, you've never been like this before. I'm simply giving birth. It's not that dangerous." Deep into the night, inside the hospital room, surrounded by a yellow glow, Mo Ting held onto Tongning's hand tightly. "After the baby is born, I will definitely not be nice to him. After staying in your stomach for so long, I won't even let him out. The baby probably knows that you're going to steal his warm embrace, so he wants to stay in my stomach a little longer." Mo Ting was silent for a moment before he suddenly said, "Mom said pregnant women are also in danger. So, these past few days, I've been thinking about what I should do if something happens to you. But no matter how I think about it, I still don't know what the answer is. I only feel fear that I have never felt before. Don't be afraid. The child and I will be by your side. We won't go anywhere. We will continue to be by your side until we grow old." That night, Tongning could feel Emoting sleeping carefully in her arms, while she had a sleepless night with her eyes wide open. She had never seen Emoting like this. He was the king of the entertainment industry. He had always been invincible, but at this moment, he was like fragile glass. Tongning's heart ached, so she kept praying that the baby would be born soon. That way, his father would be able to rest easy. The next day, the doctor performed a series of tests on Tongning. In the end, they confirmed that she could administer an injection to induce labor. She comforted Emoting and told him not to worry too much. While Tongning was waiting in the delivery room, Emoting wanted to stay by her side. But Tongning understood Emoting's temper. If he saw her in pain, he would forever remember her. So, she refused to let him stay by her side. It didn't take long before the pain hit her. Tongning felt her breathing tighten as she found it hard to breathe. Outside the delivery room, everyone waited anxiously. Only Emoting sat quietly on the bench. His entire body was tense. Although he did not say a word, no one could ignore his presence. Tongning, you've already overcome all obstacles. Can't you give birth to the child of the man you love? With this thought, Tongning's body was filled with energy. Tongning, you can do it. I can already see the baby's head. Inside the hospital room, Tongning was in so much pain that she almost fainted. Outside the room, everyone could tell how much pain Emoting was in. Why does this brat have so many disasters? Elder Tang couldn't help but sigh at the doorway. It didn't take long before a nurse walked into the delivery room and grabbed onto Elder Tang's hand. Are you Tongning's family member? Yes, I am. Congratulations, the baby has been delivered. Both mother and child are safe. In a moment, a nurse will carry the baby out for the family to see. Don't worry, Tongning is fine. Hearing the word baby, everyone let out a sigh of relief. At this time, the nurse asked, who is the husband of the pregnant woman? Everyone turned to look at Emoting. Emoting stood up and walked over to the nurse. I can tell that you love your wife a lot. This is the first time I've seen a pregnant woman give birth so bravely. She didn't want her husband to worry. You and your wife are a loving couple. Congratulations again. Can I go in now? As Emoting spoke, his voice was not as cold as usual. Instead, it sounded a little raspy with a slight tremble. He was afraid. It seemed he had yet to focus on the fact that he was now a father. All he had on his mind was Tongning and his lover. Yes. After the nurse spoke, Emoting immediately entered the delivery room. Seeing Tongning covered in sweat, he immediately ran over and held onto her hand. It's okay, it's okay. Tongning couldn't hold back her tears as they rolled down her cheeks. After all, she had just made a bet with the nurse. Most husbands, after their wives gave birth, would focus all their attention on the child. It was rare for a husband to directly ask his wife about it. In fact, there were even cases of husbands leaving after giving birth because it was a daughter. Tongning said her husband wouldn't, because in his heart, she would always be number one. The nurse was envious of their relationship. Of course, she also congratulated Tongning. Have you seen the child? Emoting shook his head. He wanted to hug Tongning, but he was too afraid to move. Are you worried about me? Uh-huh. Emoting's voice trembled. Outside the delivery room, everyone was still waiting. Soon, the nurse arrived with the child Tongning had given birth to. She was ready to introduce the little one to the family. But the most surprising thing was, the nurse was carrying one child on each side. So, you guys didn't know? Mrs. Mo gave birth to twins, a pair of sons. A pair of sons. That jerk Mo Ting sure is lucky, Bei Chendong sighed as he stood to one side. But his voice was filled with envy. Looking at the two white and tender babies in the nurse's arms, the entire family was overjoyed. It's great to have twin brothers. Perhaps even Tongning didn't know that she had given birth to two babies. Because, during prenatal checkups, she only cared about the health of the babies. As for other surprises, she told the doctor to keep it a secret. So, all she cared about was the pain a moment ago. By the time the pain subsided, she had already forgotten everything. Chapter 717. Afterwards, Tongning was sent to a normal hospital room. At this time, Xia Yuling arrived with the two babies in her arms and happily handed them to Tongning like she was presenting a treasure. "Look, you have a son?" Tongning looked at the two identical babies and froze in surprise. Seeing this, Xia Yuling laughed. "You don't even know how many babies you have?" Tongning shook her head as she placed her expectant gaze on Imo Ting. Imo Ting had never seen the babies before. This was the first time they had met. "Do you want to carry them?" Xia Yuling asked. Imo Ting did not move. Perhaps he was still not used to being a father. Because, at this moment, he finally felt the heavy responsibility of being the father of two children. From now on, the two children would rely on him and Tongning to survive. Although he had already prepared himself, when he actually saw the babies, he was still a little nervous. Xia Yuling sensed Imo Ting's nervousness, so she gestured for him to lift his arms and mimic the way she held the children. Afterwards, she placed the two babies in Imo Ting's arms. The babies looked very small, especially when they were in Imo Ting's arms. But they were fast asleep and quiet, like they were filled with a sense of security. "Hey, the daddy isn't crying while carrying the babies." Seeing this, the nurse smiled. It seems the relationship between the babies and their daddy is going to be good. Seeing Imo Ting's careful expression, Tongning sat up and gently stroked the baby's cheeks. A satisfied smile appeared on her face. Late at night, the hospital room was extremely quiet. Tongning awoke from her sleep to find Imo Ting still sitting by her bedside. Her heart ached. "The babies have been born and I'm fine. You haven't slept for a few days. Don't make me worry, okay?" Imo Ting lifted his head and looked at Tongning. After a quick glance, he nodded his head, "Okay." After speaking, he walked around the end of the bed and lay down beside Tongning. Tongning quickly stopped him. "Don't. My body isn't clean after giving birth." Imo Ting stretched out his arms and pulled Tongning into his embrace. "You gave birth to my babies. I don't even despise you. Why are you despising yourself?" "It smells." "I'm not afraid," Imo Ting said gently as he hugged Tongning tightly. "Thank you, wifey." Hearing this thank you, Tongning's eyes turned red. As long as this man knew she had suffered and understood her pain, then all the torture she had gone through would not have been in vain. "You're welcome." He placed his chin on the top of Tongning's head and continued, "In this world, nothing can be taken for granted. I am grateful and content to have you and the baby." Tongning's tears flowed to the corners of her eyes, but after hearing this, she suddenly smiled. "You're welcome, Mr. Imo. This is my love for you." At any time, no matter how much time had passed, the couple on the sickbed still had strong feelings for each other. How many people in this world are grateful to the ones they love? Imo Ting often wondered, especially over the past few days. He couldn't understand why so many people in this world were willing to be angry or cruel to the people they loved. For him, simply the thought of Tongning not being by his side made him feel terrible. As a result, no matter what Tongning did in the future, as long as she was by his side, he would be satisfied. "Where's the babies?" "They're already asleep," Imo Ting replied. "In that case, have you named them yet?" Tongning asked. "The older brother is Imo Zichin and the younger brother is Imo Zishi. You can name them." After hearing this, Tongning suddenly fell silent. Imo Ting waited for a moment. Thinking she had already fallen asleep, she suddenly said, "Why don't we call them Tang Tang and Gua Gua? When they grow up, they will definitely hate you." Imo Ting laughed. Tongning also laughed. The elders all say that nicknames should be tacky enough to make it easier to raise them. They must be happy that I didn't name them Wang Kai or Ah Fu. They had already agreed to get some rest, but the couple suddenly had a lot to say. After all, the big baby had given birth to a little baby. Imo Ting felt that he would never forget this day for the rest of his life. She gave birth to a son? This was perfect. From now on, there would be 2 more men in the family to protect Tongning for him. The next day, Duan Jinghong received news that Tongning had safely given birth. In fact, she had given birth to twins. If it wasn't for the fact that they had to perform that night, the 4 of them would have already popped open a bottle of champagne to celebrate. Previously, Hua Wenfeng made so many bad rumors about Mai Tongning. She claimed that she was a girl and that she was disabled. But look what happened in the end. Didn't Mai Tongning give birth to 2 babies? Wow, Emoting and Tongning's children are going to attract a whole bunch of girls when they grow up? I know, right? That's right. Let me calculate the leg length of these two babies first. Duan Jinghong watched as the members of the Emo family got busy. She was happier than if she had given birth herself, but a smile also appeared on her face. Regardless of everything, she was happy to hear this news. However, the slut, Song Xian, was still trying to find out about Tongning's current situation and was planning to make a move on her and the babies. She refused to mend her ways, didn't she? In that case, tonight was the time to give Song Xian a big present. The group leader seemed to have noticed Duan Jinghong's thoughts, so she patted her on the shoulder. Do your best tonight. You are our secret weapon. Duan Jinghong nodded her head. Don't worry, I will. Hurry and arrange for 2 tickets to be given to her. Let her watch the live version. That way, it will be exciting enough. Duan Jinghong thought to herself, she didn't need to worry about this because Hai Rui would naturally make arrangements. No, according to Song Xian's personality, even if no one dug a hole for her, she would still jump into it herself. As expected, it didn't take long before Song Xian gave Duan Jinghong a phone call. Jinghong, are you free tonight? What is it? I want to go watch the performance of the girl group that Hai Rui recently released. I want to see what kind of people they are for Hai Rui to put so much effort into. I need to have dinner with my parents tonight. Ask President Xiao to go with you. Duan Jinghong replied naturally. But her heart was already racing and she couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Okay, I'll give Xiao Yuha a phone call. After speaking, Song Xian hung up the phone. Duan Jinghong put down her phone and sneered. Song Xian, it seems, you're about to receive a big present. Song Xian had no idea what was going on. So, when she gave Xiao Yuha a phone call, she did not give the group a second glance. Xiao Yuha understood her pride. So he replied, Where's Jinghong? Why isn't she going with you? She needs to keep her parents company, Song Xian replied. Okay, I'll go with you tonight. Wait, have you heard from Tongning? No, Xiao Yuha replied. Did she give birth to a monster, so she can't be seen? Song Xian scoffed. Chapter 718. Don't speak so viciously, Xiao Yuha reminded helplessly. Is this the first day you've met me? It's not like you don't know how I am, Song Xian replied casually. Yes, Xiao Yuha thought to himself. He already knew what kind of person Song Xian was from the beginning, but he still couldn't help but treat her without hesitation. In reality, the reason why Song Xian did not force Duan Jinghong was because she hadn't spent time with her parents for a long time. But whenever she thought about how glorious Duan Jinghong was when she first returned to China, she felt extremely uncomfortable. She couldn't accept that someone that had always been her follower was suddenly more dazzling and eye-catching than she was. So, on the surface, nothing had changed between the two of them, but deep down, they were well aware of whether or not they had truly changed. 6:30 p.m. Xiao Yuha drove Song Xian to the venue. But, on the way, Song Xian couldn't help but ask, Have you noticed that Jinghong has become prettier recently? A little, Xiao Yuha replied. She likes to dress up more than before. I don't like it when my manager wears so much makeup. I prefer her to be clean in the past. Song Xian expressed her dissatisfaction. But, in reality, her vanity was playing tricks on her. It must be tiring to be friends with you. Not to mention, I can't be better than you. Xiao Yuha smiled helplessly. What? I have the right to choose my friends. Xiao Yuha did not say another word. He simply focused on driving. The girl group that Duan Jinghong was a part of was called AOB. It consisted of 4 members, and each member had their own specialties and was extremely talented. As they had just debuted, they did not have the right to hold their own concert. So, the other seniors of Hai Rui specifically invited them to perform as guests in order to support the younger generation. Backstage, Duan Jinghong and the others were getting their makeup done. At this time, the group leader suddenly asked, Is the bitch here? Duan Jinghong turned around and nodded at the group leader. She's here? It's good that she's here. Then, let's show her our might. This was a concert for 10,000 people. There were many fans at the venue, so the view was limited and it was extremely noisy. But, Because Song Xian was given a VIP ticket, she sat at the front of the stage and was only separated from the guests by the runway. That would be even better. At 7 p.m. sharp, the concert officially started. Song Xian couldn't help but sigh. She was indeed someone trained by Hai Rue. Whether it was singing, dancing, or performing on stage, they were practically perfect. No wonder Hai Rue's singers were so well-liked. Amidst the wave after wave of screams from the fans, Song Xian felt her ears go numb. However, the show she wanted to watch still hadn't appeared. But Duan Jinghong, who was sitting backstage, had a clear view of Song Xian's every move. He really wanted to know what kind of expression she would have later. On stage, the MC had already prepared the stage for AOB's entrance. Although the fans had never heard of them before, because they were guests invited by their idols, they were filled with anticipation and erupted in a loud round of applause. Get ready. It's time to go on stage. Don't be afraid. In a moment, all you need to do is bring out your usual charm. You have never lost to anyone. Duan Jinghong was encouraged as she nodded her head and smiled calmly at her captain. Soon, the lights on the stage changed and it was pitch black. At this time, Duan Jinghong and the others officially appeared on stage. A few seconds later, the spotlights on the stage lit up. The girls were already in position and began to sway their soft bodies to the rhythm of the music. As a result, the audience once again erupted into an intense round of applause. The girls sang and danced energetically. Their movements were confident and handsome as they choreographed the dance. At first, Song Xian did not notice that Duan Jinghong was among them because of her makeup. But as soon as the cameras focused on Duan Jinghong and her face appeared on the big screen, Song Xian's expression changed. She immediately asked Xiao Yuhe, "Is that Jinghong? Are my eyes playing tricks on me?" As the girls were constantly changing positions, Xiao Yuhe couldn't get a good look. She only looked similar. Why is Jinghong here? Song Xian instinctively felt that she wasn't mistaken, so she continued to stare at the woman. The more she looked at her, the more familiar she looked. Finally, the song and dance came to an end, and they finished the last part. At this time, the stage lights were all lit up, and the host also walked in front of them. He smiled and said to them, "Come on, introduce yourselves and say hello to the fans." Song Xian looked nervously at the woman who looked similar to Duan Jinghong and watched as she received the microphone. "Hello everyone, my name is Jinghong. Jinghong. Duan Jinghong." Song Xian immediately stood up. At that moment, she really hoped that she was hallucinating. Impossible. How could this be possible? How could Jinghong be here? How could she be a member of the AOB group? After realizing that she had been deceived, Song Xian's mind went blank. Duan Jinghong actually lied to her. She actually dared to lie to her. Xiao Yuhe subconsciously turned to look at Song Xian and noticed the complex emotions in her eyes. Song Xian could now taste the feeling of being betrayed by her best friend. "You are all so young. Everyone says that the AOB group is the most anticipated group of the year. After seeing your performance just now, I feel that you are all very young and beautiful. You are full of energy. President Imo has good taste," the host praised. "Plus, I heard that Jinghong was injured and had only joined the group not long ago. But, looking at your performance just now, you were simply too perfect. You are truly outstanding." "Thank you." Duan Jinghong bowed to the host. After speaking, she straightened up and looked at Song Xian below the stage. Her gaze was provocative and contained a sense of ridicule. It was like she was ridiculing Song Xian's stupidity and confidence. As expected, if they weren't in a stadium with 10,000 people, Song Xian would have torn Duan Jinghong in half a long time ago. How could she do this? She was merely a manager. What right did she have to be an artist? She even wanted to be more famous than her. At this moment, Song Xian's heart was filled with anger. Xiao Yuhe seemed to understand how she felt, so he suggested, "Why don't we go backstage and ask?" "Even if you didn't ask, I would still go," Song Xian said as she gritted her teeth. Song Xian gritted her teeth and said, "I'd like to ask her what made her so confident and shameless. I treated her so well, but in the end, she betrayed me like this. She overestimated herself." Chapter 719. Duan Jinghong knew that Song Xian would definitely go backstage. As for the other girls in AOB, they did not immediately remove their makeup. Instead, they kept their hair and makeup in the same style as Duan Jinghong to show their team spirit. They would never allow Duan Jinghong to face Song Xian on her own. No. To be exact, they had been waiting for this opportunity to tear Song Xian apart for a long time. Soon, a commotion could be heard from outside the waiting room. It was obvious. The concert staff had stopped Song Xian outside. The girls looked at each other inside the waiting room. The leader of AOB was not afraid of trouble. She immediately stood up from her dressing table and walked towards the door as she said, "I'll open the door." Duan Jinghong sat in front of her dressing table without moving. As soon as the door opened, Song Xian threw a slap at the leader before she could even see who it was. It seemed. She thought the person who opened the door was Duan Jinghong. The leader clicked her tongue and grabbed onto Song Xian's wrist. Superstar Song is indeed different. She's a big shot, and her temper is also big shot. All of you leave. I have something to say to Duan Jinghong. After hearing Song Xian's commanding words, the girls couldn't help but laugh. Who are you ordering around? Our big Miss Song? We all know that your grandfather is a government official. But, I'm sorry, not everyone is afraid of your revenge. You, leader, please wait for me for a moment. Duan Jinghong knew that as long as the others were around, Song Xian would continue to put on an act in front of her. She was actually quite disgusted by it. So, it was better for her to deal with Song Xian sooner rather than later. The leader and the girls looked at each other and remained silent for a few seconds. In the end, they nodded their heads. We will wait outside the door. If she tries anything funny again, shout for us. Okay. Duan Jinghong looked at the leader gratefully, gesturing for her not to worry. Soon, only the two of them remained in the waiting room. Duan Jinghong did not move, but Song Xian took a few steps forward and said in a mocking tone, I never expected that after one trip to South Korea, I would be unworthy of her. From now on, you will be even more unworthy. Duan Jinghong laughed. Why? Duan Jinghong understood what Song Xian was asking. So she picked up a cotton pad and poured some makeup remover onto the cotton cloth in her hands. You're actually asking me why. What a joke. Song Xian, did you think that you were a princess and everyone in the world revolved around you? Do you think that because my background is worse than yours, I should be your follower for the rest of my life? Why? Why don't you ask yourself how you treat me? Because of you, I risked my life to hurt Hua Jingjing. Because of you, I risked my life to instigate Hua Wenfeng. Because of you, I even snuck into President Mo's office to steal your and Tong Ning's evaluation reports. But, when I was accused of stealing, what was the first thing you did? Do you still remember the look on your face when you threw the bank card beside me? You still have the cheek to ask why? After hearing this, Song Xian wanted to refute. She wanted to refute Duan Jinghong. Of course, she did. I treated you so well and took care of you at university. Who needs your care? Who needs your care? Duan Jinghong laughed even louder. Although my family background isn't as good as yours, I'm still a lot better than the average person. I simply wanted to prove that I wanted to be friends with you. That's why I treated you so well. I never did it because of the branded products you gave me. Don't make your charity sound so great. Haven't you already tried to find a sense of superiority from me? Since you know that my background is better than yours, why are you still daring to become an artist? What right do you have? Song Xian asked angrily. Did you think that you can be more famous than me and receive more than me in the industry? Of course I can be better than you and receive more than you because Tong Ning is willing to support me. During my most difficult time, Tong Ning was the one that gave me a glimmer of hope. During my most helpless time, her enemy let me off the hook and allowed me to turn over a new leaf. As for your friend, she's more disgusting than yesterday's dinner. Tong Ning? Support you? Stop dreaming. She's just using you to stabilize her position because she's past her prime. No matter what, at least I've debuted. Duan Jinghong opened her arms wide, allowing Song Xian to take another look at herself. I currently have an endless supply of resources in my hands. Hyrule won't freeze me. They won't guard against me like they guard against you. Song Xian, I know how ruthless you are. I have a lot of information that can be used against you. I may not have a chance of winning against you on my own, but don't forget, I have Tongning backing me up. I know you still look down on me, but I will definitely become better and better than you. You just have to hold on to your self-esteem and stay where you are for the rest of your life. Plus, don't blame me for not warning you. Previously, when your grandfather tried to hurt Tongning, President Mo did not say anything because he was worried that Tongning was pregnant. Afterwards, when he comes to his senses, you and your grandfather will definitely die a horrible death. After hearing this, Song Xian trembled in fear. She was tempted to tear Duan Jinghong apart. Duan Jinghong looked at Song Xian from behind her glasses and couldn't help but laugh. Don't even think about making a move. What do you think your chances of winning are? I won't let this matter rest. So what? You still don't have a future like I do. Duan Jinghong acted like she didn't care at all. You better watch your words and don't do anything reckless. Otherwise, I won't mind using my most ruthless methods on you. After hearing Song Xian's warning, Duan Jinghong also looked at Song Xian through her glasses. The hatred in her eyes intensified. Tongning told me to pass you a message. If you continue to be unjust, you will bring about your own destruction. Song Xian harumphed coldly as she pushed open the door and rushed out. As soon as the AOB members saw this, they couldn't help but whistle. It was obvious that Duan Jinghong had the upper hand in this competition. Seeing this, Xiao Yuha stepped into the room and said to Duan Jinghong, I never thought that even you would betray her. She betrayed me first, Duan Jinghong replied. Get lost with your goddess song. The AOB members immediately chased Xiao Yuha out of the room. Who cared if they were the owner of Kaihuang Cinema? It wasn't like they were acting, so they didn't need to hold back. Afterwards, Duan Jinghong relaxed and looked at the team leader. Only now do I realize how much I hate her. But I'm not the one that hates her the most. The AOB members patted her on the shoulder. They understood how she felt. That's enough. You've already done well. You haven't let Tongning down. Chapter 720. On the way home, Song Xian was furious. So, she told Xiao Yuha to stop the car and destroyed the plants along the road. Xiao Yuha followed behind her. Seeing her venting her anger on the plants, he immediately stepped forward to stop her. Don't do this. Don't I even have the right to vent my anger now? My manager and best friend have already debuted behind my back and now, she has a brighter future than me. Can I vent a little? Song Xian turned around and punched Xiao Yua's chest. I know Tongning planned all of this behind the scenes. She wanted us to turn against each other so she could reap the benefits. But that bitch Duan Jinghong still believed her. No matter what, Duan Jinghong's debut has already become a reality. Why don't you try to accept it? How am I supposed to accept it? Someone that has been my shadow since university has suddenly become more popular than me. How am I supposed to accept this? Song Xian yelled on the streets. To avoid attracting attention, Xiao Yuha understood and carried Song Xian into his sports car and drove her straight home. But, as soon as Song Xian returned home, she continued to act crazily. In fact, she did not even look at Elder Song kindly. What's wrong? Elder Song was confused. Xiao Yuha sighed helplessly and simply said, She's not in a good mood. Elder Song nodded his head and waved his hand at Xiao Yuha. I've already gotten used to it. Please forgive me. The two men were well aware of Song Xian's temper. In this world, there was no one that could make Song Xian suffer. She had never considered for anyone's sake and would never give in to anyone. Now that Duan Jinghong had debuted, how could she accept it? After spending some time, Xiao Yuha explained everything that happened that night to Elder Song. After hearing everything, Elder Song couldn't help but sneer. I never expected Jinghong to be so ambitious. It seems I need to teach her a lesson like how I dealt with Tongning. Xiao Yuha did not say a word. Elder Song could interfere with Tongning's film, but he couldn't interfere with Duan Jinghong's album. After all, they were in two different fields. Plus, the people that helped Elder Song weren't necessarily willing to take another risk for him. She has truly soared. But, don't forget, a sparrow will always be a sparrow. Even if she wears new clothes, She can't become a phoenix. From Elder Song's words, Xiao Yuha could tell that he wasn't going to let Duan Jinghong off. But the problem was, Duan Jinghong knew a lot of Song Xian's secrets. If he were to make a move and force her into a corner, Song Xian would be the one to suffer. In reality, the old man had no idea what Song Xian was doing. He simply thought that his granddaughter was always in the industry being bullied. He didn't even consider that with Song Xian's personality, this was impossible. However, Xiao Yuha didn't say anything. AOB's performance was extremely successful. It could be said that they had made a name for themselves in Beijing. After all, not only did Hai Rui spend a lot of money to train these people, they were also very generous in terms of resources. As a result, Duan Jinghong had a taste of being famous. So, there was no way she would give up on everything and return to her previous life. Even if Song Xian wanted revenge, she was prepared to fight her to the death. Late at night, Duan Jinghong relayed everything that happened to Tongning over the phone. However, Tongning had just coaxed the two babies to sleep. As soon as she heard Duan Jinghong's words, she replied calmly, "I know you performed well today. Song Xian is furious. I'm sure she will think of a way to get revenge. You don't need to be afraid. You are now an artist under Hai Rui, so you will naturally receive their protection." Tongning remained calm. Plus, you don't need to do anything. All you need to do is put your heart into your performance. That will be the best way to retaliate against Song Xian. After all, she can't stand to see you do well, and she definitely doesn't want you to surpass her. What about you? Are you going to let her off just like that? Duan Jinghong asked curiously. Now that Tongning was a mother, was she going to put even less effort into her performance? Every time I see my babies' faces, I think about how they almost didn't come into this world. This was a grudge that Tongning would remember and never forget. But that has nothing to do with you. You simply need to do as I say. By the way, Jinghong, since you've turned over a new leaf, don't have any more evil thoughts. Even if you have to deal with Song Xian, don't use the dirty tricks that you used in the past. It wasn't easy for you to escape from Song Xian's control. Don't repeat your mistakes. If that happens, no one will be able to save you. I know. This was something that Duan Jinghong always remembered. I'm not stupid. There's no way I'll go back to how I used to be. Don't worry. Compared to the unscrupulous and fearful life that I had in the past, I prefer my current life. Tongning wanted Duan Jinghong to leave. Duan Jinghong's existence was already a form of provocation and mockery for Song Xian. So, there was no need for Duan Jinghong to place her thoughts on her enemy. That way, even if Duan Jinghong didn't do anything, as long as she was more popular than Song Xian, she would definitely feel terrible. Not long after, Tongning hung up the phone and turned to look at Imo Ting. She watched as he carefully picked up one of the babies and gently coaxed it. Did I disturb him? It's okay. Just coax him a little more, Imo Ting said with familiarity. Although he had only been a father for a short period of time, he had already gained a lot of experience. Of course, as the manager of an international company, it was easy for him to understand the two babies' tempers. So, it didn't take him long to grasp their tempers and habits. As a mother, Tongning couldn't help but feel inferior. As she watched Imo Ting carry the babies, Tongning couldn't help but want to snuggle up to him. The scene was too beautiful. In fact, she could already imagine that in a few years' time, when the two babies were able to walk, they would chase after Imo Ting all day long. That would be even more heartwarming than it was now. I've already given Song Xian a big gift. Next, it's time to give the Song family a gift. Be gentle. After all, he's getting on in years. I'm not sure if he can withstand the storm, Tongning said as she stroked her son's cheek. I know what I'm doing. After speaking, Imo Ting placed the babies on the bed and pulled Tongning into his embrace. In 2 days, I'll take the three of you home. Since we're going to watch a show, we should of course watch it in person. I can't wait any longer, Tongning replied in seriousness as she leaned against Imo Ting's chest. There were some things that Tongning could let go of, but there were some people that she wouldn't let go, even if they were to enter their graves. At this moment, all she could do was sit back and watch the show. Chapter 721. Has the investigation been completed? Mo Ting asked Lu Che as he stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in Hai Rui CEO's office. Absolutely, Lu Che replied. In Elder Song's eyes, Song Xian is his proudest granddaughter. Not only is she talented, but she is also pure and kind. Although he doesn't approve of her entering the entertainment industry, it doesn't hurt his love for her. Doesn't the old man know that his granddaughter is guilty of many crimes? How would Song Xian dare to let him know? Lu Che laughed. Send me an invitation. I'm quite interested in meeting this old man. After speaking, Mo Ting turned around and placed his gaze on the pile of documents on his desk. Also, from now on, leave everything that isn't too important to Fong Yu. Okay. Mo Ting wanted to meet Elder Song personally. Although Lu Che didn't know what Mo Ting wanted to do, according to his temper, Elder Song wasn't going to get off easy. Elder Song never expected that Mo Ting would send someone to invite him. As soon as he heard that Mo Ting wanted to see him, he turned to his secretary and laughed. This Mo Ting is, at most, the boss of an entertainment agency. If someone like him wants to see me, they would have to queue up for God knows how long. I won't be able to meet him. The secretary bent over and whispered a few words in Elder Song's ear. After hearing this, Elder Song slammed his hand on the table in anger. How dare you? To prevent any more trouble, it's best that you meet with Mo Ting. You've already retired and are still working as a consultant. Things aren't as easy to deal with as they used to be. Don't leave any loose ends for yourself. Elder Song remained silent for a few seconds before he finally nodded his head. In that case, I'll leave it to you. Elder Song had spent his entire life in the military, so he was naturally a proud man. But Mo Ting understood Elder Song's temper, so he asked Lu Che to pass a message to his secretary. Over the past few days, I've been busy taking care of my pregnant wife, so it's a shame that I haven't been able to meet with Elder Song. Now that I'm free, I naturally want to meet with Elder Song. At least, I want to know the true face of my enemy. Elder Song was aware of Mo Ting's arrogance, so he already planned to teach Mo Ting a lesson. Unfortunately, it was impossible for him to grasp such an opportunity. That night, it was raining heavily in Beijing. Elder Song boarded a black car and arrived at the meeting place. He instructed his secretary to escort him to a private room. He was already half an hour late. He originally thought Mo Ting had been waiting in the private room for quite some time. But, to his surprise, Mo Ting was nowhere to be seen by the time he entered the private room. It was only 10 minutes later that he finally arrived. The old man sat on the chair and looked at the young man in front of him. He smiled and said, "This is the first time I've seen a junior meet an elder but arrive later than him." Mo Ting straightened his suit jacket and wiped away the water droplets on his shoulders. He then sat down in his chair and replied, "Old man Song, please forgive me. After all, I have just become a father, so I was a little flustered and delayed a bit." Young man, you're really arrogant. Do you really think that you can change anything by asking me out and pressuring me? You're too naive. You should know that when you're in a high position, there are many temptations. I've seen situations like this for half my life. Elder Song used his position to pressure Mo Ting. Elder Song, why did you think I invited you here today? Mo Ting sat opposite to Elder Song, unfazed by his ridicule. What else could it be? Isn't it because of your wife? From what I see, Tongning is just an entertainer. It's bad enough that she's been banned, but you can still make someone else famous. Is it worth it for a woman? Mo Ting looked at the old woman opposite him. For a moment, he seemed to understand why Song Xian had become what she was today. I'm not here because of Tongning, nor am I trying to pressure you. I simply want to show you something. After speaking, Mo Ting pulled out his phone and played Duan Jinghong's voice recording for Elder Song to hear. Up until now, Song Xian has instructed me to do a lot of wrong things, especially the last two. Firstly, she set up a dog to bite Hua Jingjing. Secondly, she instigated Hua Wenfeng to attack Tongning, causing her to almost have a miscarriage. I have important evidence in my hands. Song Xian has never been an obedient child. Ever since she was a student, she has been unscrupulous in order to achieve her goals. Once, in order to get first place, She set up a trap to prevent the other party from attending an awards ceremony. Afterwards, she threatened the other party not to say a word. Otherwise, her grandfather would make the other party's entire family lose their jobs. As long as Tongning allows me to turn myself in, I will tell the police everything. I'm sure, with the police's confirmation, Song Xian will definitely be convicted. Song Xian pretends to be too good. In reality, she's sinful. She's never felt guilty about everything she's done. Afterwards, Ting put away his phone and looked at the shocked Elder Song. Elder Song, did you really think that I, the CEO of a multinational company, would have the time to go against your kind granddaughter? Elder Song tried to grab the phone from Ting's hand, but Ting quickly dodged. Duan Jinghong has been good friends with Song Xian since they were students. After graduation, they even worked together. Duan Jinghong knows better than anyone what kind of person Song Xian is and what she's done in the past. That's impossible. This is pure slander, Elder Song said angrily. Whether it's slander or not, we'll know once we call the police. After all, Duan Jinghong is already prepared to turn herself in. Ting laughed. I'm sure we'll be able to get a lot of information from Duan Jinghong's mouth. When the time comes, we'll let the police interrogate her one by one. That way, the wronged victims won't suffer in vain. Elder Song's expression darkened as he looked at Ting. After all, he wasn't an ordinary person, so he knew what psychological tactics were. But Ting's expression didn't reveal anything. He simply looked fearless. This was enough to prove Ting's confidence. He wasn't making things up. If this was the truth, you would have called the police a long time ago. Why would you come looking for me? Elder Song scoffed. I'm a person with a conscience. Before calling the police, I need to let you know what kind of person your granddaughter is and give you a heads up. It turns out that Elder Song is so righteous that he's willing to put family before righteousness. Since you can't wait for me to call the police, then I'll naturally fulfill your wish. After speaking, Ting made a phone call to the police. But, as soon as the phone connected, Elder Song grabbed the phone from Ting's hand and hung up. Don't do anything reckless. Ting simply smiled at Elder Song. He didn't get angry, nor did he say anything harsh. But, even so, Old Man Song could feel the deterrence of an emperor. What do you want? Chapter 722. It's simple. The person you found to ban Tongning in the past, I will now find that person to remove their ban, Ting replied. He did not hesitate to reveal his motive. Are you asking me to go back on my word? That's your problem. Ting's voice gradually turned cold. Ting's voice gradually turned cold. If you don't feel sorry and guilty for what your granddaughter has done, then I don't need to care about your pride. I simply want to see you slap yourself in the face. Elder Song turned his head to the side unwillingly. What? Didn't you just tell me not to be arrogant a moment ago? Why are you so quiet now? Elder Song, let me tell you, if you don't make up for your granddaughter today, I will have no choice but to make up for it with her. Your granddaughter almost caused my wife and family to lose their lives. If you were in her shoes, how would you make up for it? Elder Song opened his mouth, but no words came out. He couldn't explain himself. What you owe has to be paid back sooner or later. Are you going to pay it back, or is she going to pay it back? Elder Song had never felt so wrong before. He had been scolded into silence by a brat who was still wet behind the ears. Could it be that human lives are so worthless in your eyes? Hearing Ting's question, Elder Song finally calmed down to think carefully. In reality, he knew that Ting wasn't wrong. As a man, it was normal for him to protect his wife and children. As for the human life that Ting was talking about, how could it be worthless? However, he never expected that in his granddaughter's eyes, it was so cheap. Because of your connivance, Song Xian has acted recklessly. Don't you think you should take responsibility for this? Elder Song remained silent for a moment before he finally took a deep breath. Tell me, what other request do you have? Hearing Elder Song's compromising question, Ting leaned back in his chair and laughed. What other request do I have? I'm waiting for Elder Song to give me a satisfactory answer. Apart from the request I just made, the rest depends on Elder Song's performance. I'll give you one day to think about it. If Elder Song still doesn't say anything after one day, I'll have no choice but to ruthlessly call the police. Old Master Song's face was ashen. He was so angry that he couldn't say a word. He stood up and almost fainted from his elevated blood pressure. Imo Ting was the one who called his secretary in, allowing Elder Song to leave safely. If it wasn't for Old Master Song's inability to distinguish right from wrong, why would he make things difficult for an old man? When an old man is disrespectful, he must pay the price for his mistake. Apart from asking the old man to lift the ban on Tongning, Imo Ting did not make any other requests. He simply wanted the old man to think about it, and guess what he was thinking? He wanted to see how far the old man was willing to go to protect Song Exine. He was waiting to see what kind of answer the old man would give him. Song Exine had no idea that Elder Song had already found out about her crimes. After returning home, she saw Elder Song sitting on the sofa. She originally wanted to borrow his authority, but Elder Song glared at her coldly and ordered, "Come here, Grandpa?" Song Exine was confused. "I told you to come here," Elder Song repeated coldly. Song Exine approached Elder Song suspiciously and cautiously. A second later, she felt a burning pain on the right side of her face followed by a loud slap. "Grandfather, kneel in the ancestral hall for the entire night. Without my permission, you are not allowed to get up. Housekeeper, keep an eye on her," Elder Song said as he pointed towards the ancestral hall. "Grandfather, why should I do that?" Song Exine held her cheek as she resisted. "What did I do? How could I make you so angry?" "You will find out tomorrow." After calming down, Elder Song thought for a long time. Although he hated Imo Ting's methods, Tongning was someone else's wife and child. Even if she wasn't a big deal, what about his son? He almost died in the hands of his own granddaughter. If he was in her shoes, he would have shot her. What hurt him the most was the fact that Song Exine used his position as a grandfather to achieve her own goals. She even pretended to be a perfect angel in front of him. He was taking the side of the evildoer. After careful consideration, Elder Song finally decided to send Song Exine to Hyrule the next morning and let Imo Ting deal with her personally. He could do whatever he wanted with her. Because of Song Exine, he had become a villain that couldn't tell right from wrong. It was hard to accept. Late at night, Imo Ting returned home to find Tongning coaxing the babies to sleep, so he immediately ran over to help. Although they had only interacted for a short period of time, the babies had already gotten used to being in their father's embrace. So, they needed to enjoy it for a while before they could sleep peacefully. Afterwards, the couple placed the babies in their cribs and entered the walk-in closet. Tongning helped Imo Ting remove his suit jacket. "Did you go see someone? Go lie down on the bed. You've just given birth. Why don't you take care of yourself?" Imo Ting carried Tongning in his arms. "I'm fine. I don't even care about confinement these days." Tongning laughed. "I made them give us a satisfactory answer," Imo Ting replied as he placed Tongning on the bed. "Is Elder Song okay?" At first, he was angry, but after he thought things through, he must have felt terrible. Of course, how could he feel good being used by his own granddaughter? Tongning laughed. "In that case, let's wait and see if Elder Song is sincere." "Ting, thank you for protecting Jinghong. This isn't something you should be thanking me for. In fact, you shouldn't be thanking me." After speaking, Imo Ting coaxed Tongning to get some rest. "Go to sleep first. I'm going to go have a shower." "No need. I'll wait for you. The babies are going to cry in a bit." "That's right. After all, I don't have any milk." Tongning laughed as she punched Imo Ting on the chest. She then pushed Imo Ting. "Hurry up and go." In reality, Duan Jinghong had no evidence. Even if she went to the police, she would only be throwing Song Exine into a scandal. But, in the end, they wouldn't be able to do anything to her. Even so, was Song Exine brave enough to call the police for evidence? She had a guilty conscience, so she didn't dare to act recklessly. Elder Song shouldn't be underestimated. Although he was no longer as sharp as before and could be deceived by Song Exine, if he wanted to cripple Song Exine, he would still need to personally make a move. Tomorrow, it would depend on what Elder Song planned to do. With this thought in mind, Tongning turned to look at the two babies. The two rascals had been tormented for an entire day. The elders of the Mo and Tang family refused to let go of the babies. It couldn't be that she would never be able to hold her babies again, right? Chapter 7:23. In the middle of the night, the couple were sleeping soundly when they suddenly heard a loud cry. Tongning was immediately awoken from her dreams. Seeing the baby crying, she was about to sit up when the man beside her quickly jumped out of bed and carried Guogua in his arms. As soon as Imo Ting touched the baby, he furrowed his brows. He's hot. He must have a fever. After hearing this, Tongning immediately jumped out of bed. The doctor said that babies don't have good immune systems, so it's normal for them to have a fever. She taught me a few ways to reduce a fever and warned us not to panic when something like this happens. Lie down and let me do it. After speaking, Imo Ting pulled out a thermometer and carried the baby into the bathroom. The doctor had told him that a warm bath would help lower the baby's temperature. The one lying in the crib was the older brother, and the one who was sick was the smaller brother. While Imo Ting was bathing Guogua, Tongning made a phone call to the doctor. Although it was in the middle of the night, the doctor patiently answered Tongning's questions. Actually, at the beginning of the prenatal checkup, the doctor did not notice that she was pregnant with twins because the younger brother developed a little slower and his body was a little weaker. Also, you don't need to take special care of him. Don't get into the habit of being biased towards someone from a young age. Otherwise, the older brother will feel unbalanced. After hearing the doctor's advice, Tongning felt a lot less worried. Afterwards, she tiptoed over to the bathroom. Under the yellow lights, she watched as Imo Ting held the baby in one hand and wiped his body with the other. His serious expression was mesmerizing. Nanny. These two words quickly formed in Tongning's mind. Perhaps it was because she had never experienced fatherly love since she was young. But seeing Imo Ting so serious, Tongning's heart was slowly filled with warmth. She didn't know what other people were like, but she knew that Imo Ting would be a good father. Just like that, Song Xian mysteriously knelt in the ancestral hall for an entire night. Originally, she wanted to get some information from the housekeeper, but the housekeeper had no idea why Elder Song was so angry. Not only that, Elder Song also specifically instructed the housekeeper to strictly supervise Song Xian's punishment. If he found out that she had gone easy on Song Xian, he would double her punishment. The next morning, just as the sun rose, before Song Xian could react, Elder Song had already taken her to a car. She had no idea where they were headed. Grandpa, you made me kneel for an entire night. You should at least tell me the reason, right? You'll know when we get there, Old Master Song said firmly. Grandpa, you have never treated me like this. Are you bullying me because I have no parents and no one to rely on? No one to rely on? As soon as Elder Song heard this, he raised his hand again. Just as he was about to swing it at Song Xian lifted her head and yelled, Stop! Go ahead and hit me. I can't escape from your grasp anyway. As soon as Elder Imo heard this, he calmed down. He put down his arms and lit a cigarette in the car. After taking a deep drag, he said, Xian heir, we've relied on each other for so many years. Whatever you want, I'll give you. But I've recently realized that you're very unfamiliar. Are you hiding something from me? Song Xian was stunned and suddenly felt guilty. However, she pretended as if nothing had happened. Grandfather, did you hear some gossip outside? Have you ever instructed Duan Jinghong to do something evil? Elder Song looked at Song Xian seriously and asked, Grandfather, how is that possible? I'm innocent. But Duan Jinghong has evidence of you hurting Hua Jingjing and Tongning's child. Hearing the word evidence, Song Xian's palms began to sweat. She couldn't help but panic. But after a moment of silence, she suddenly realized that she had simply given Duan Jinghong a verbal order. How could Duan Jinghong possibly have evidence? Could this be Tongning's trap? So, she turned around and tried to open the car door. Drive. I want to get out. You're not going anywhere today. Grandfather, how could you believe Tongning's words? How could I have done something like that? Has Tongning presented any evidence? How could you trust her so much? Let me tell you, I've never done anything. I've never done anything. Song Xian resisted. In fact, she even tried to interfere with the driver's driving from the back seat. The driver was quite frightened as he quickly stepped on the brakes. But it was already too late. The car slammed into the guardrail and almost flipped off the bridge. Song Xian was protected by Elder Song, so she was fine. But Elder Mo's head was slammed into the left side of the window as his head was covered in blood. Grandfather. Afterwards, Elder Song was sent to the hospital. Song Xian was angry and annoyed. At this moment, she was completely helpless. She paced back and forth outside the operating theater. After careful consideration, she pulled out her phone and gave Xiao Yuha a phone call. I have something to expose. Although she had been stabbed by Duan Jinghong, she had always been cautious when it came to matters like this. She couldn't leave any evidence for Duan Jinghong to use against her, let alone important evidence. So, she was certain that Hai Rui couldn't present any evidence. They were simply putting on a show to trick Elder Mo into compromising with them. How despicable! Since Tongning was so shameless and caused her grandfather's life and death to be unknown, then she wasn't going to hold back anymore. Following is a piece of news. At around 8 a.m. this morning, a car accident occurred on a stone bridge near Central Street. Our reporters have confirmed that the people involved in the accident were the most popular artist, Song Xian, and her family. Our reporters have also confirmed that Song Xian's grandfather and the driver are currently undergoing surgery in separate operating theaters. Song Xian is currently safe. Afterwards, our reporters interviewed Song Xian. Surprisingly, after the accident, Song Xian did not express her shock. Instead, she expressed her anger towards someone. What was the truth? Following on, please take a look at our reporter's report from the hospital. Famous composer and novelist, Song Xian, stated that the reason why she was involved in the car accident was because of Hai Rui. As everyone knows, Hai Rui and I had a falling out not too long ago. Originally, I thought I would just bear with it and let it go. After all, I no longer have anything to do with Hai Rui. But I never expected that Hai Rui would go so far as to hurt my family. Right now, I want to accuse Hai Rui of 3 crimes. Firstly, in order to protect Tongning's position, they suppressed the artists under them. Secondly, Elder Wu's plagiarism claim originally had nothing to do with me. But Hai Rui refused to clear my name. Thirdly, they used Duan Jinghong's theft to hide me and then arranged for her to debut. That's right, the Jinghong from AOB that you all saw was Duan Jinghong, my ex-manager. And now, to top it all off, they've used some groundless excuse to use my grandfather against me, causing him to get into such a serious car accident. Let me tell you, Mo Ting, I'm not done with you. Chapter 724. But there are rumors online that the reason Tongning's film was vetted and the reason she was silently banned by the industry was because your grandfather used his connections behind the scenes. The reporters did not hesitate to dig a hole for Song Xian. At this time, Song Xian was angry, so it was easy for her to say and do the wrong thing. If my grandfather was that capable, would I still be bullied by Hai Rui? Song Xian responded from the side with a disdainful tone. In that case, is the Duan Jinghong that stole from us really the same Duan Jinghong from AOB? The reporter asked. Just look at the photos and you will know. She went to Mo Ting's office and was bitten by a dog. Afterwards, I don't know what methods she used to get plastic surgery to debut. Although the incident happened 2 months ago, how could I casually reveal a scandal like this? On top of that, she was even my ex-manager. How shameless. Can you explain in more detail about today's car accident? The public had seen and heard enough about who was right and who was wrong in the entertainment industry. Everyone was like a victim, but when they were finally exposed, they always had an ugly expression on their faces. Hai Rui didn't have much to explain. Song Xian's accusations were too cliché. But there was one incident that gave the public a new perspective on Hai Rui, Duan Jinghong. If Duan Jinghong was really the Duan Jinghong that stole from us a few months ago, then Hai Rui's actions didn't make sense. If a burglar could become a famous celebrity, What kind of image did Hai Rui have to create for the public? In reality, Hai Rui had already dealt with the situation a long time ago. Since Emoting wanted Duan Jinghong to debut, he of course made thorough preparations. There were no photos online of Duan Jinghong being bitten by a thief. Plus, her aura had changed drastically. As long as Hai Rui's PR said they were two different people, no one would be able to refute them. After seeing the news, Tongning immediately gave Duan Jinghong a phone call. Don't worry. Continue on your path. No one will recognize you. Although Duan Jinghong knew how powerful Hai Rui was, whenever she heard the word thief, she would feel nervous. After all, she was Duan Jinghong. She was the Duan Jinghong that was bitten by a dog because she entered Emoting's office. Previously, she was hoping that if she didn't expose Song Xian wouldn't go around spouting nonsense. But, in reality, someone like Song Xian, he didn't mean to do it. Song Xian was certain that she did not have any evidence. Tongning. Just as Tongning was about to hang up the phone, Duan Jinghong suddenly stopped her. Actually, I think it's enough. What? I've already tasted what it feels like to shine, but there are some things that I can't avoid. Now, I believe what you said. What I owe and what I've done will eventually be paid back in another way. So, I don't want to avoid it anymore. Duan Jinghong gathered up her courage and said, President Mo, please don't do any PR for now. Although I know that after Hai Rui's PR, I will have a bright future ahead of me, but I am not a person. Tongning, I'm sorry. I'm deeply sorry for what I've done to you and what I've done to your friends. I don't know how to make up for my sins. The only way is to prove your innocence. On the other side of the phone, Tongning remained silent for quite some time before she finally asked Duan Jinghong, Have you made up your mind? My mind has never been this clear before. Duan Jinghong smiled. After stepping out, I may not be able to recover, but I feel that my life will be more stable. Thank you, Tongning. Tongning did not stop Duan Jinghong. To be exact, although Duan Jinghong was about to lose everything, she would be able to regain her freedom. What are you planning to do? I'm going to give Song Xian a head-on blow. Duan Jinghong smiled. I don't have any other requests. I simply hope that if anything happens to me, you can take care of my parents. They are simple people and not as greedy as I am. Don't worry. Hearing this, Duan Jinghong smiled and said goodbye to Tongning. Tongning had once promised her that even if she exposed Song Xian, she wouldn't be blamed. At that time, she thought it was a temptation. But now, she simply wanted to be blamed. That way, she wouldn't feel so guilty. Tongning could definitely keep her promise, but she didn't need it anymore. Hai Rui has been very quiet this time. Why hasn't they done any PR? I've looked through a lot of photos of Duan Jinghong. Some of the blurry silhouettes don't match what Song Xian said. Song Xian didn't explain the car accident clearly, so I'm not sure who's at fault. Emoting, hurry up and do some PR. We can't support a thief as an artist. Right now, Song Xian is the only one making a ruckus online. Hai Rui hasn't responded to her at all. I wonder what the truth is. I have a feeling that there's a big secret behind all this. I agree. I agree +1. Hai Rui did not do any PR, but news of Song Xian's ruckus spread throughout the streets. Entertainment news was like this. It came fast and furious, and everyone enjoyed talking about it. But when the next piece of news came out, they would quickly forget who made the headlines the day before. Elder Song and the driver's surgeries ended after 5 to 6 hours. As Elder Song was quite old, he was still unconscious, but the driver woke up first. Song Xian sat by the driver's bed. As soon as he opened his eyes, she immediately approached him and asked, Uncle Chun, are you okay? Mississippi. Do you remember how the car accident happened? Song Xian asked as soon as Uncle Chun regained consciousness. I remember it was Mississippi. No, it wasn't me. It has nothing to do with me. After speaking, Song Xian leaned over and warned Uncle Chun, if you dare tell the public that the car accident happened because of my interference, then you better watch out for your family's safety. Uncle Chin's eyes grew big, and he did not say another word. Song Xian thought that Uncle Chun had obediently accepted her threat, so she did not say another word. She simply said, "Uncle Chun, get some rest. I'm going to go check on grandfather first." Uncle Chun glared at Song Xian. His heart was filled with frustration. But, just as the words were about to leave his mouth, he swallowed them back down. He had been a dutiful person his entire life. Who would have thought, with a single car accident, he would be threatened? This was obviously Song Xian's responsibility. Uncle Chun knew what was going on, so he did not say a word. He knew that there were some words that only had value when spoken to people of authority. Song Xian would never have guessed that this time, she had dug her own grave. If she hadn't yelled at Hai Rui out of impulse, she may not have provoked Duan Jinghong. She only dared to act arrogantly in front of the media, but Duan Jinghong went straight to the police station and turned herself in. Chapter 725. While Song Xian was yelling at Hai Rui, Duan Jinghong personally arrived at the police station and told them that she wanted to file a report. The police asked Duan Jinghong what case she wanted to report. Duan Jinghong bravely replied, "I want to turn myself in." The police immediately launched an investigation into Duan Jinghong. So, Duan Jinghong spent the entire morning explaining how she planned to injure Hua Jingjing's leg and how she instigated Hua Wenfeng to hurt Tongning. "Miss, if everything you've said is true, then the person you want to accuse will not be held responsible. Do you understand? In other words, if everything you've said is true, then you are the main culprit and she is merely an accomplice. Do you understand?" "I understand." Duan Jinghong nodded her head seriously. Duan Jinghong nodded her head solemnly. "I did everything, but the person that gave me the order was Song Xian. All I did was reveal the truth. As for the consequences, that is a matter for the police and the court to deal with. No matter what the verdict is, I deserve it." After hearing Duan Jinghong's words, the police nodded their heads. "You're very self-aware." "That's great. Since the nature of this incident is so bad, we will definitely investigate it thoroughly. Otherwise, the entertainment industry's unhealthy tendencies will spread all the way to the Atlantic Ocean." Duan Jinghong was extremely calm. Especially after revealing the truth, she no longer had to carry any secrets or shackles on her shoulders. Everything was relaxed. The media quickly rushed to the police station and surrounded it. As Duan Jinghong had voluntarily turned herself in and was extremely cooperative, the police did not allow the media to get close to her in order to protect her. Even so, the media still received news that Duan Jinghong had turned herself in. Not only was she a member of AOB, she was also the Duan Jinghong that once burgled Mo Ting's office. Not only that, she was also Song Xian's ex-manager. In fact, she even personally described to the police how Hua Jingjing was injured and how Tongning almost had a miscarriage. She admitted that she had personally done it, but the mastermind was actually Song Xian. As soon as the incident happened, the internet exploded. Hai Rui's and Mo Ting also sent 2 people to ensure Duan Jinghong's safety. From the looks of it, Hai Rui was extremely supportive of Duan Jinghong's decision. "I never thought there was an inside story behind Jingjing's injury. Duan Jinghong may be hateful, but Song Xian is a complete psycho." Duan Jinghong voluntarily turned herself in. Although we know that she's done a lot wrong, her courage in admitting her mistakes is commendable. Song Xian previously accused Hai Rui of hurting her grandfather online, yet she did so many shameless things behind his back. How hateful. Bitch. At the hospital, as soon as Song Xian saw that Duan Jinghong had turned herself in, she almost went crazy with anger. It wasn't easy for her to use Elder Song's injury to gain some sympathy, yet Duan Jinghong actually turned herself in. This bitch has no evidence. Doesn't she know that she'll only be hurting herself in the end? In reality, this was similar to her accusation against Hai Rui. Neither side could produce any concrete evidence, so they were simply having a good argument. However, the fact that Duan Jinghong went straight to the police station made people believe in her sincerity and believed in her words. So, public opinion immediately sided with her. "I can't just sit here and wait for death. I need to fight back." After speaking, Song Xian gave Xiao Yue a phone call. I want to sue Duan Jinghong for defamation at the same police station that she went to. Xiao Yue did not know how to deal with a crisis. He simply felt that Song Xian's action was the best way to fight back against Duan Jinghong. So he agreed and escorted her to the police station to confront Duan Jinghong. But, as a result, the police station became extremely lively. Duan Jinghong never expected that Song Xian would appear at the same police station. Worst of all, Song Xian was going to sue her for defamation right in front of Duan Jinghong. The media desperately tried to find something to report, but the police were already prepared. Seeing this, both the plaintiff and defendant were already present. When enemies came face to face, their eyes were filled with hatred. But Song Xian knew that Duan Jinghong's actions today would only result in a loss for both parties. There was no benefit to be gained. It's bad enough that you've ruined yourself, yet you're trying to drag me down with you. Are you satisfied with the outcome? Hearing Song Xian's question, Duan Jinghong's eyes turned cold as she calmly replied, "You can't escape. What evidence do you have?" Song Xian shrugged her shoulders. "Since you've already debuted, you should just be a small-time celebrity. Why do you have to make it look so ugly?" Duan Jinghong did not say a word as she closed her eyes. Seeing this, Song Xian wanted to step forward, but the people from Hyrule stopped her. "Step back? Where are the bodyguards? I told you to step back. Don't you understand?" The people from Hyrule pushed Song Xian away. "Why don't you take a look at the type of person you're protecting? She's just a nobody. Is there a need to work so hard? But she has dignity, while you only have disgust." The people from Hyrule warned Song Xian not to get any closer. Afterwards, according to Duan Jinghong's words, the police visited each and every one of them. However, they did not find any evidence and did not file a case for surrendering. According to the police's investigation, there is no more evidence to prove that the two of you are related to these two incidents. So, the police station can't make a case to arrest you. You can go back first. As long as there is any progress, we will definitely inform you. After hearing what the police had to say, Song Xian laughed. "Duan Jinghong, this is the consequence of surrendering." Afterwards, she said to the police, "I want to sue Duan Jinghong for defamation." The police glanced at Song Xian and said impatiently, "We simply haven't found any evidence yet. Why are you acting so arrogant? Before the case is closed, you are still a suspect. I have a lawyer that can handle it." After speaking, Song Xian left the police station arrogantly. But Duan Jinghong did not move an inch. "Have you investigated everything according to my instructions? You didn't find any evidence at all?" "Miss, I understand how you feel. You want to bring the culprit to justice. But the chances of finding evidence for something like this is very slim. Hurry and go home." Duan Jinghong did not want to give up. She wanted to ask the police again, but the people from Hyrule said to her, "Go home. There's no point in panicking." "I'm angry that I can't do anything to Song Xian even though I'm looking at her. Heaven's Net has a long way to go. Some people will always get what they deserve." The fact that the police couldn't find any evidence was within Song Xian's expectations. After all, she had always been the one that moved her mouth. Who could prove anything? So, it was normal for her to be arrogant. After leaving the police station, Song Xian said to the reporters, "Regarding Duan Jinghong's slander, I will use the law to protect my rights. I never expected that I would be stabbed by my most important friend. From now on, I no longer have a friend like her. I will definitely make Duan Jinghong pay a heavy price." Chapter 726. The plot had changed too quickly, so the public had no time to update themselves. All the media knew was that the crimes that Duan Jinghong accused Song Xian of were not established because there was no evidence. Song Xian left before Duan Jinghong and acted arrogantly in front of the media. But what would Duan Jinghong do? Facing the cameras of the reporters, Duan Jinghong suddenly knelt down with a pained expression. "I don't want anything right now. I simply want to punish the evil. As long as someone can provide me with evidence, I, Duan Jinghong, am willing to give up everything I have as compensation." "Miss Duan, What made you step forward to testify against Song Xian? Is it convenient for you to reveal it to us? I've already made myself clear in front of the police. I am willing to accept punishment from the law. All I ask is that the law doesn't let any guilty person off, especially Song Xian. After speaking, Duan Jinghong left the police station under the protection of Hai Rui's bodyguards. Of course, a complicated entertainment gossip like this caused the bored netizens to fall into a heated discussion. If Song Xian was actually behind all this and we can't find any evidence against her, then she's too despicable. That's right. Duan Jinghong acted like she was asking for punishment from the law. I'm sure she's prepared for the worst. It's obvious that she has a sacrificial spirit. I hope Song Xian doesn't get away with it. Perhaps Duan Jinghong is deliberately taking revenge on Song Xian? That's hard to say. After all, we don't have any evidence. Regardless, there were people supporting both sides, and each of them had their own opinions. Duan Jinghong insisted that Song Xian was guilty, but the police couldn't find any evidence. To make Song Xian pay for what she had done was indeed extremely difficult. It was no wonder that Song Xian could remain arrogant even at this stage. As Tongning knew the outcome of Duan Jinghong turning herself in, she asked the bodyguards to escort her to Hyatt Regency. After coaxing the two babies to sleep, Tongning walked into the living room and saw Duan Jinghong. I already know the outcome. I never thought it would be so difficult to punish her, Duan Jinghong said in a choked-up voice. Duan Jinghong sobbed. If the law can't find any evidence, wouldn't my sacrifice have been in vain? From now on, no one will be able to deal with Song Xian. That's not necessarily true. Tongning gestured for Duan Jinghong to sit down and handed her a tissue to help her control her emotions. Does Song Xian have a criminal record of injuring someone? That was when she was still a student. In order to get first place, she purposely injured her opponent on the eve of the awards ceremony. The other party had caught her, but she had used her background to whitewash everything. However, there is no evidence for these things. You're wrong. After you told us what happened, Imo Ting instructed Lu Che to start an investigation. However, there was no news until now. Perhaps because of Song Xian's attitude, the culprit was heartbroken. So he took the initiative to call Hai Rui and claimed to be Song Xian's classmate. He even found an eyewitness. Is this true? Duan Jinghong's heart was once again filled with hope. You'll know if it's true after you meet him. If this matter was exposed, neither Song Xian nor Elder Song would be able to escape the law. Of course, Elder Song had no idea what was going on. But, after all the trouble that Song Xian had caused, it was impossible for Elder Song to continue working, and he would be investigated. After Duan Jinghong turned herself in, the police failed to find any evidence. This further fanned Song Xian's anger. She directly claimed that Hai Rui wanted to turn the situation around and make the media forget how they had hurt her grandfather. So, she bribed Duan Jinghong to stage a show of turning herself in. Since there was no evidence, as long as she said it, people would definitely believe her. Of course, the world was big, so it wasn't impossible. The public did not seem to notice that Hai Rui was in a quagmire. It was as if they couldn't find a way to prove their innocence. Faced with the media and the public, Song Xian spoke with conviction and played the role of a victim to the extreme. But, at this time, the police suddenly arrived at the hospital to investigate the cause of the car accident. Although Song Xian was nervous, she believed that her threat to Uncle Chun was effective and effective. As soon as the police entered the hospital room, she followed closely behind. During this time, she glared at Uncle Chun multiple times. Your name is Old Chun, right? Can you tell us how the car accident happened? Old Chun sat up and glanced at Song Xian. He then replied in a raspy voice, Yes, Uncle Chun isn't in a good state. Don't waste too much time. Speak. Actually, this car accident wasn't an accident like it seems. Uncle Chun pointed to Song Xian. She deliberately interfered with my driving. That's why the car accident happened. It has nothing to do with Hai Rui. It's all because of her. As soon as Uncle Chun finished speaking, Song Xian's expression changed. Uncle Chun, how could you say such nonsense in front of the police? Whether I'm lying or not, The memory card in the car can give the police the answer. Uncle Chun replied in a deep voice, I've driven for the Song family for so many years. I never expected the big miss to be such a jerk. How dare you ask me to hide the truth of an accident? That's impossible. The dashcam couldn't have recorded this. The Song family's car has always been equipped with cameras because Mr. Song has a high status and is afraid of being used to threaten him. After hearing this, Song Xian's face turned pale. No way. You're lying. Chapter 727. After the police left, Song Xian glared at Uncle Chin angrily. Why did you tell the police? Did you know that because of what you said, I could go to jail? The Song family has treated you well. Is this how you repay your benefactor? Since you've done something wrong, you should go to jail. Uncle Chun was neither servile nor overbearing, completely unaffected by Song Xian's threat. You will pay for what you've said today. Uncle Chin scoffed as he lay down on the bed to continue resting. He had no intention of responding to the crazy Song Xian. He must have been blind to have come to work for the Song family. How could he have met such a crazy woman? Although Song Xian wanted revenge, she was more concerned about the police's progress. She wanted to know if they had already gotten their hands on the cameras and if they had discovered her crimes. As for Hai Rui, what game was Imo Ting playing? Although she was currently in a disadvantageous situation, it was impossible for Imo Ting to defeat her like this. Impossible. All. Nothing. Ever since her leg injury, Hua Jingjing rarely appeared in front of the public. If it wasn't because Tongning had given birth, she would have continued to stay at home, unwilling to face the outside world. Song Xian's incident caused an uproar, and the topic of her was once again brought up. But, no matter what the outcome was, her career was no longer going to return. So, what was the point? Especially when she saw the scars on her legs. How was she to compete on the runway with her legs? The babies are so well behaved. The two brothers look exactly the same. Otherwise, why would they be called twins? Tongning helped the babies clean up the crib and placed the babies on the bed with Hua Jingjing looking after them. What do you plan to do from now on? Are you not going to make a comeback? Hua Jingjing asked as she played with the baby's chubby hands. I'll deal with Song Xian first. Tongning had not thought about the future. Because of the birth of the babies, her plans were completely disrupted. After all, life before and after giving birth was completely different. So, she didn't want to be away from the babies for too long. I've seen the news. This Song Xian, out of all the people I know, is the most disgusting. I will definitely send her to where she belongs. Needless to say, Hua Jingjing understood. This place was a prison. I hope everything goes well tomorrow. But this matter didn't need to wait until tomorrow. Because, as soon as the police followed Uncle Chin's instructions to retrieve the surveillance cameras, they already knew that Song Xian was the cause of the accident. That night, Song Xian was brought to the police station for questioning. However, Song Xian refused to say a word. Her lawyer had instructed her not to let her emotions affect her decisions before he arrived. Late at night, when Imo Ting received the news, he had just finished bathing the babies. As he tidied up the bathroom, he turned on hands-free and said to Lu Che, right now, she is only being detained temporarily. That is not our goal. Don't forget our goal. We want her to spend the rest of her life in prison. So, we will continue with our plan tomorrow and give Song Xian a huge surprise. I understand, President. As the almighty CEO of Hai Rui, he obviously didn't need to do everything himself. But, as long as it concerned her or the baby, he would always do it himself, no matter how big or small it was. Tongning couldn't help but sigh as she climbed onto Imo Ting's back and wrapped her arms around his neck. What happened? Nothing. I just feel like I married an amazing husband. Did you only find out now? Imo Ting smiled as he stood up and carried Tongning out of the bathroom. His footsteps were steady. Stay by my side for the rest of your life. You will discover even more amazing things about me. Tongning did not respond. She simply leaned on Imo Ting's shoulder and bit him hard. You're already a mother. How come you still can't change this habit? Ting did not furrow his brows. He simply remembered that it had been a long time since Tongning had bitten him. Tongning loosened her bite and lifted Ting's shirt to look at the bite marks on his shoulder. She suddenly felt a little guilty. Does it hurt? Ting did not say a word. He simply let out a gentle laugh as he carried Tongning onto the bed. The couple seemed to have maintained this habit. No matter what they were like on the outside, when they returned home, they would always be each other's most needed partner. And now, their lives were about to be joined by two adorable little things. This was perhaps the most embarrassing night Song Xian had ever had. She was continuously interrogated at the police station until late at night without a single bite of food, let alone a bed for her to lie on. Miss Song, it's hard for us to keep your mouth shut like this. Why can't you be a little more straightforward? The case is actually already very clear. Before my lawyer arrives, I won't say anything. Song Xian repeated this sentence over and over again that night. The police were so tired of hearing it that they were about to grow calluses. The police rolled their eyes and shook their heads. Taking the initiative to explain the case will help you, miss. Song Xian closed her eyes and pretended not to hear what the police were saying. The police helplessly slammed their hands on the table and stood up. She has quite a strong mentality. This was the scariest part about Song Xian. Without any evidence, she wouldn't say anything. Because this bit of evidence was not enough for her to admit defeat. Soon, Song Xian's lawyer arrived at the police station. Using some unknown method, Song Xian was released on bail. The police watched helplessly as the criminal left. As a result, Song Xian's smile was filled with a sense of ridicule and pride. Xiao Yuhe was waiting outside to receive Song Xian. Seeing her in such a sorry state, he immediately ran over and escorted her home. Eat something first. We'll think about other things later. I will definitely return the humiliation I suffered today 100-fold in the future. Song Xian was still dreaming that there would be a future for her. But she had no idea that Ting never gave people a second chance. What do you plan to do with Hairui tomorrow? Xiao Yuhe asked as he sat beside Song Xian. His right hand occasionally placed food in front of her. Ting isn't someone to be trifled with. I don't have the ability to settle things for you. Don't worry, Hairui won't be able to find any evidence. Song Xian might have hesitated if it was anything else, but when it came to Hua Jingjing and Hua Wenfeng, wasn't it Duan Jingheng that did it? What did it have to do with her? Did Hairui make a move without any evidence? I don't know what Hairui is like at other times, but this time, Hairui definitely have no evidence because I didn't do it. After speaking, Song Xian put down her bowl and chopsticks and said to Xiao Yuhe, in a moment, I'm going to treat my grandfather. I refuse to believe that he would betray me. Chapter 728. In reality, Song Xian only appeared strong on the surface. Deep down, she knew that every time Hairui made a move, it was always because they were confident. But she had no idea if there were any loopholes in the way she handled this incident, unless Hairui wanted to fabricate evidence. According to Tongning's unscrupulous personality, this was definitely possible. But when the time came, Song Xian could only react accordingly. Tongning, go ahead and bring it on. The outcome of the battle was not yet determined, but she had no idea. Hairui didn't want to settle the score with her this time. After the car accident, coupled with the fact that Hua Jingjing was bitten and Tongning almost had a miscarriage, as well as Elder Wu's plagiarism incident, Song Xian's incident received a lot of attention from the public. Almost everyone already believed that Song Xian was the culprit, but they were also curious if Hairui would be able to produce any evidence. This was originally a matter for the police, but because it happened in the entertainment industry, it was best to use the entertainment industry's methods to resolve it. Song Xian, of course, was deceiving herself. She thought, as long as Hairui couldn't produce any evidence, she would be fine. But in reality, a lot of things were slowly changing. For example, from now on, the entertainment industry would no longer have a place for her. The next morning, it was 8 a.m., as promised by Hai Rui. As scheduled, Hai Rui held a press conference. This time, the new PR director personally attended. As what Jingjing was involved, he was afraid that Fang Yu wouldn't be able to control his emotions. As the lights of the media flickered, the new director stepped onto the stage and said, "This matter concerns Hai Rui's reputation and many of our artists. Right now, Hai Rui would like to provide a response to Miss Song Xian's previous accusations. I hope everyone in the media can report the truth. Of course, we will not be merciful to her just because of her grandfather. Song Xian and Hai Rui have been entangled for a long time. Today, Hai Rui will clarify everything. Firstly, Song Xian accused Hai Rui of suppressing other artists in order to protect Tongning's position. Of course, she was referring to herself. But everyone knows that Tongning is an actress and Song Xian is pursuing her career in the music industry. There is no competition between the two. Plus, Miss Tongning has already announced her indefinite retreat from the industry, so there is no need for her to compete with Song Xian. So, this is purely Song Xian's slander. Secondly, Elder Wu's plagiarism case resulted in his brain being damaged and Tongning's film being taken off the shelves. She was also banned by the industry, and the original author of The Tracker stepped out to identify the culprit. As a result, there was a lot of gossip online, but Hai Rui did not do anything about it. I will keep Hai Rui's answer for now and reveal it to everyone later. Thirdly, regarding Song Xian's previous manager, Duan Jinghong. Due to the theft incident, she was left with a negative image, but Hai Rui managed to help her debut. There are reasons for this. Firstly, Duan Jinghong explained to Hai Rui the reason she entered President Mo's office was because of Song Xian. She wanted to help Song Xian obtain Hai Rui's evaluation of Song Xian, so she made the wrong decision. Secondly, Duan Jinghong confessed to Hai Rui about Song Xian's evil deeds and asked them for help. But, because Duan Jinghong knew Song Xian's secret and Song Xian was notorious, Hai Rui decided to make this arrangement to protect Duan Jinghong. If Duan Jinghong really wanted to be famous, she could have used another identity to walk down the starry road. Why would she step out to identify Song Xian? Everyone must be curious as to why Duan Jinghong betrayed Song Xian after treating her so loyally in the past. It was because Duan Jinghong shouldered the crime of theft for Song Xian, yet Song Xian abandoned her like a pair of worn-out shoes. So, this is the result we're seeing now. Duan Jinghong has calmly faced herself, but there are some people that still refuse to admit to their evil deeds. Let's not talk about the things that everyone thinks have no evidence for now, and ignore the car accident incident. Hai Rui will now announce another big crime that Song Xian has committed. Friends from the media, please open your eyes wide. As soon as the director finished speaking, someone appeared on the red carpet supporting a woman on crutches. The reporters quickly moved aside, but they couldn't understand why Hai Rui was doing this. Who was this woman? This woman is called Song Xiaoxiao. She is in her early 20s and is the same age as Song Xian. Not only that, they are classmates. I'm sure everyone has noticed that this child's left leg has been amputated from a high position. So, how did she end up disabled? This is all because of Song Xian. At that time, they were both 19 years old. Because Xiaoxiao beat Song Xian and won first place, Song Xian made a crazy decision to push her down the stairs. Because Song Xiaoxiao was injured, she couldn't attend the awards ceremony. But Song Xian never expected that Song Xiaoxiao would see the person that pushed her. At this time, Song Xian did something even crazier. She used her grandfather's identity to threaten Song Xiaoxiao's family. After so many years, Song Xiaoxiao's heart has been in pain. She watched as Song Xian slowly rose to fame, while she herself became a useless piece of trash. In the past, she was afraid of putting her family in danger, so she held it in. But now, she simply wants to tell everyone the truth. That Song Xian is a murderer. By the way, Song Xian, you better not try to deny what you did. We have witnesses, as well as evidence of you sending people to threaten the Song family. We will hand it over to the police later. As soon as they saw the disabled child, the reporters began to take photos. They never expected that they would get to see a copy of the story. If they looked at it this way, Song Xian was unforgivable. Seeing the intense reaction from the public, the director handed the microphone to Song Xiaoxiao. Although Song Xiaoxiao was disabled, she was braver than anyone else in the face of hatred. His raspy voice was clearly transmitted to every corner of the room. Song Xian is an evil person. I'm afraid none of you here can imagine it. After saying that, she pointed to the empty space on her left leg and said coldly, "When I was 19, I rolled down from the 4th floor. If it wasn't for my luck, perhaps I wouldn't have been able to stand here and speak. I wouldn't have been able to seek justice for myself. That's why, as soon as I heard rumors about Song Xian's schemes, I was the first to believe them. Because that's exactly the kind of person she is." Yesterday, after the car accident, Song Xian was detained by the police for an interrogation. Yet, she was bailed out and is still getting away scot-free. So, the reason I'm standing here today is to send her back to prison. I don't want to see this woman walk around with her uninjured legs again. It's disgusting. Chapter 729. Song Xian is an ambitious and heartless person. Although I've been disabled for a few years, my biggest wish in this life is to see Song Xian sent to prison. Song Xiaoxiao's words were powerful. At the same time, her words were filled with hatred. Tongning felt the same way. This was exactly how Tongning felt. How Hua Jingjing was bitten, and how her baby was almost miscarried. The anger she felt was something she would never forget for the rest of her life. So, she and Song Xiaoxiao now had a common goal. This time, Song Xian was no longer going to get away with her crimes. Even through the television screen, the viewers could feel Song Xiaoxiao's pain, especially when they saw her missing left leg. At this moment, everyone had the right to punish Song Xian for her barbaric actions. Song Xian never expected that Hai Rui would use her past as a trump card. She was too naive. It turned out, even without Duan Jinghong's accusation, Hai Rui could still destroy her reputation, because she had done too many evil things. It didn't take long before Song Xian's lawyer gave her a phone call. He told her that he might not be able to bail her out this time, and told her to find a way to seek refuge overseas. But Song Xian wasn't convinced. How could she lose? She couldn't possibly lose. Even so, she couldn't avoid being taken back to the police station by the police. Inside the same room, the same police officer interrogating her. "Miss Song, we meet again. This time, who are you going to use as a shield?" Song Xian remained silent, as if she was waiting for Elder Song's final chance. But the truth was, after Elder Song woke up from his surgery and saw the news, he sat in his hospital room smoking cigarettes for half an hour. He couldn't believe that the man he had raised was such a beast in human clothing. How am I supposed to face anyone? The news continued to broadcast the scene of Hai Rui's press conference. Song Xian's reputation was completely ruined. But even at this point in time, Song Xian continued to deny all her crimes. Her mental fortitude was top-notch. This continued until the police received news that Elder Song had committed suicide in the hospital. After the police received the report, they returned to the interrogation room and placed the information in front of her. "I've seen countless evil women. Some have chopped their husbands to death and strangled their daughters to death. But, when faced with solid evidence, none of them would continue to quibble like you. If you still have a little bit of conscience, you should pay for your grandfather's death." For a moment, Song Xian didn't understand what the police were saying until she saw Elder Song's death report. "What happened to my grandfather? How did my grandfather die? Why did you die? Shouldn't you be asking yourself?" After speaking, the police handed Elder Song's will to Song Xian. Seeing the snow-white envelope, Song Xian realized that her hands were trembling uncontrollably. Seeing this, the policeman reached out to help her open it. Xian, this is the last time Grandpa will call you that. Seeing you do so many wrong things, I really don't have the face to continue living in this world. I can only use my life to repay the debt you owe others. I think this is probably my retribution for not educating you well. As for making you lose your only family member, it may be God's retribution for you. I've donated all my assets to charity. I don't want to leave my assets in the hands of an evil person. You're on your own now. Song Xian was forced to finish reading the short will. She then went crazy. This is impossible. My grandfather can't be dead. He's dead. You caused his death. You caused your grandfather's death. The police yelled at Song Xian. If I was in your position, I would first chop you to death before committing suicide. At least I would have created some value for society. Song Xian's eyes grew wide as she collapsed onto the chair and knelt on the floor. I didn't cause grandfather's death. No, it was them. Elder Song sure was unlucky to have a granddaughter like this. In the end, he had no choice but to pay for it with his life. Long Jia watched the news as she helped Tongning take care of the baby at Hyatt Regency. Although it's a pity, perhaps this is fate. They say that children are enemies from their previous life and are here to collect their debts. I wonder what Elder Song did in his previous life to owe Song Xian so much in this life. Tongning smiled as she received the baby from Long Jia. Although it's a pity, there's nothing we can do about it. But even in a situation like this, Song Xian is still pretending to be deaf and mute. Does she not feel any guilt towards her grandfather's death? Tongning shook her head. Just as she was about to place the baby in the crib, she received a phone call from Lu Che. Song Xian has confessed. After seeing Elder Song's body at the hospital, she couldn't take it anymore and told the police everything. Isn't that great? Long Jia winked at Tongning. If that's the case, then we can finally get rid of the she-devil. If she can still act like nothing has happened, then let's ask the heavens to send a bolt of lightning to strike her dead. Song Xian's hatred could be easily understood by looking at the thousands of comments left behind. Although it sounds cruel, I hope to see her executed by 1,000 cuts. If her flesh was cut off piece by piece, that would be even better. Song Xian is a rotten bitch. Are you happy that she caused the death of her grandfather? I hope the police don't let a difficult person like her die so easily. It's best if she stays in prison for a long time. Inside the police station, Song Xian had already admitted to a few crimes. However, when it came to Hua Jingjing and instigating Hua Wenfeng, she refused to admit defeat. She even said to the police, "If you want me to admit to my crimes, then tell Tongning to come see me." Tongning is no longer someone that you can see, the police said as they cuffed her up. From now on, the only thing that will accompany you is the high walls of the prison. You will never see the light of day again. No, I still have Duan Jinghong to keep me company. Song Xian was still trying to find her last bit of comfort, but it didn't take long before the police destroyed her hopes. You're wrong. Duan Jinghong has done a meritorious deed by turning herself in. Plus, the people involved in the incident have all expressed their forgiveness for her. So, her punishment will be much smaller than yours. There is only a thin line between good and evil. It will decide whether you will go to hell or heaven. Just wait for your sentence. As it was a huge case that shocked the entertainment industry, Song Xian's incident received a lot of attention from the public. With so many crimes added together, the punishment was more than enough for Song Xian to repay for the rest of her life. The person that should feel relieved was Hua Wenfeng, because she would soon have company. By the time the incident ended, Chun Xingyan had just finished filming and returned to Beijing. She and Zhehao entered Hyatt Regency to visit Tongning. Seeing her two nephews, Chun Xingyan was extremely excited. Tongning noticed and Zaheo's gaze was fixed on Qin Xingyan, so she smiled and asked, "Have you confirmed your relationship?" And Zaheo shook his head. "We are simply working together." Chapter 730. Tongning did not expose him. She simply smiled. Even if Nzaheo could hide his feelings, Qin Xingyan couldn't. Now that the babies have been born, can you consider making a comeback and acting in a film? Nzaheo had already started to think about Tongning's future. Your acting is so good, you can't let it go to waste so easily. The crew of Concubine Ning is waiting for you. Tongning looked at the babies in Chen Xingyan's arms and looked at them gently. "We'll talk about it in the future. These two rascals can't leave me for now." "You still don't plan to announce it to the public?" "I need to give Song Exine a spot in the headlines for now." And Zaheo looked at Tongning with a deeper meaning. He originally thought that after experiencing so much scheming in the entertainment industry, Tongning would have already seen through it. But, in reality, she had always been passionate and valued her career as an actress. Right now, the entire nation was waiting to see Song Xian's fate. After all, this was a celebrity committing a crime, so the novelty of it wouldn't die down anytime soon. Late at night, when Mo Ting returned home, Qin Xingyan and Mo Ting had just left. Mo Ting first gave Tongning a hug before he headed straight to the baby's room. "I've already asked Lu Che to contact the relevant personnel to take good care of Song Xine. In that case, she won't have a good time in prison for the rest of her life." Tongning smiled as she shook her head. The rest of her life? That would depend on her being alive. However, Mo Ting did not say this out loud. But whenever he mentioned Song Xian, his gaze would always contain a hint of ruthlessness and darkness. Meanwhile, Nzaheo drove Qin Xingyan back to his apartment before he drove out again. Qin Xingyan had no idea where he was going, so she had a bath and sat on the sofa waiting for him. However, at this time, Nzaheo entered an old residential area and entered one of the buildings with familiarity. He had received a phone call from Yoon Xian's father to tell him that Mother Yoon was sick. Ever since Yoon Xian left, Nzaheo had been taking care of her parents. Although he didn't visit them often, whenever something important happened, he would still drop by to check on them. "Zaheo, your Auntie Yoon went to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor suggested that she go overseas for treatment. I don't know anything. What should I do?" "Uncle, don't panic. I'll go in and see Annie first." With that, Nzaheo pushed open the door and entered. Seeing the old lady lying on the bed, he sat on the edge of the bed and asked, "Auntie, are you all right?" "Zaheo, you're here." Mother Yun looked old and her breathing was weak, but she still grabbed onto Nzaheo's hand and said, "Zaheo, I feel terrible. You can't ignore me. Don't forget about our Yoon Xian after you get married." "Auntie, even if I get married, I will still take care of you on behalf of Yoon Xian." And Zaheo replied calmly, "No." Mother Yun suddenly roared, "You belong to our Yoon Xian. You can't marry someone else. If you find someone else, I won't be able to live." Father Yun was standing behind the couple. Seeing Zaheo's unhappy expression, he immediately comforted Mother Yun. "Zaheo will never forget Yoon Xian." And Zaheo did not say a word. After visiting the two old men, he drove out of the estate. After returning to his apartment, he did not say a word to Qin Xingyan. Yoon Xian was Yoon Xian. She was already in the past. Of course, he knew that. Over the years, Yoon Xian's parents had been too reliant on him. That's why they were so afraid of him dating again. But he would marry sooner or later, wouldn't he? "Why aren't you sleeping?" Seeing Qin Xingyan curled up on the sofa, and Zaheo immediately turned off the television. "You have a full schedule tomorrow. Don't be stubborn. Go to sleep." But Nzaheo didn't say anything else and directly entered the study. He didn't know why, but he felt a little annoyed. He clearly knew that Yoon Xian's parents weren't his responsibility. Chen Xingyan tiptoed into the study room, quietly climbed onto Enzaheo's lap and sat down. Sleep with me? I still have something to do. You're obviously fine. Chen Xingyan exposed him. Go to sleep first. Be good. You have something on your mind. I heard Ningjia ask you a question today. Why didn't you just admit it? I'm not ready to go against Mo Ting yet. Enzaheo replied as he looked into Chen Xingyan's eyes. Plus, there was still the matter of Yoon Xian's parents that had not been resolved yet. Why should I let him decide the most important thing in my life? Chen Xingyan scoffed. I can marry whoever I want. Hearing the word marry, Enzaheo suddenly let out a gentle laugh as he held onto Chen Xingyan's cheeks and asked, You haven't truly understood me yet. How do you know you won't regret it? Will you make me regret it? I will try my best to give you happiness. After speaking, Enzaheo carried Chen Xingyan out of the study room and into the bedroom. Can you sleep now? Chen Xingyan looked at Enzaheo without saying a word. In the end, she nodded her head and closed her eyes to sleep. For some reason, she felt particularly uneasy that night. She could sense that Enzaheo was wavering. When a person's love for another person was too deep, they would often become sensitive and suspicious. This was her first love, so of course she would do everything she could for him. But what about Enzaheo? Enzaheo sat in the study room, thinking for the entire night. Before meeting Chen Xingyan, he had never imagined that he would fall in love with anyone again. So, he had never tried to correct Yoon Xian's parents. But now, he suddenly regretted not doing so in the past. It seemed he needed to tell the two elders that the only reason he cared for them all these years was because of his past relationship with Yoon Xian. But he didn't owe them anything. As for why he couldn't tell his wife, it was because, before this matter was resolved, how could he give Chen Xingyan happiness? Mo Ting was used to doting on his wife, so there was no way he would tolerate him hurting Chen Xingyan in the future. A few days later, Song Xian's case was heard. As it had a huge impact, the court held a public trial for Song Xian. They wanted to let the entire nation see the punishment that Song Xian would receive. The torture of being in prison was beyond Song Xian's imagination. In just 1 month, Song Xian was in a sorry state and looked extremely haggard. She was completely different from the proud composer that she used to be. In comparison, Duan Jinghong was a lot calmer. In the end, Song Xian was sentenced to 20 years in prison after being found guilty of assault and instigating crimes. 20 years. Hearing this number, Song Xian completely broke down as she knelt on the floor and begged for mercy. I know I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please, let me go. I don't want to go to prison. I really don't want to go to prison. However, when people saw Song Xian's expression, they could only feel one word: sigh. Chapter 731. 1 month later, the babies were 1 month old. The two elders, by Li Hua and Xia Yuling, prepared a celebratory party for the babies. But on this day, neither Mo Ting nor Tongning got to hold their babies. After a month of meticulous recovery, Tongning removed her loose clothing and once again donned the long dress she used to wear. Perhaps it was because she was still breastfeeding. Her upper body appeared fuller and her figure was tall and slender. She looked even more sexy and charming than before. Because of this, Hu Jingjing and Long Jie couldn't help but express their dissatisfaction. Other people's bodies turn into apples after giving birth. Why are you even more S than before? Of course, this was all thanks to President Mo. After giving birth, Tongning's nutritionist continued to take care of her diet. Although Tongning had 2 babies to take care of, she did not forget to exercise every day. As a result, her body was even more well-proportioned than before. I feel like you can still walk on the runway. Tongning looked at Mo Ting not too far away and smiled tenderly. It was this man who planned her life so well that she didn't lose anything, whether it was her body or her confidence. After the 1-month celebration, Xia Yuling carried the 2 babies and said to Tongning, Your son is going to stay with his grandmother tonight. You and Imo Ting can come pick him up tomorrow. Why? Xia Yuling blinked at Tongning. How long has it been since the two of you spent time together as a couple? Can you bear for your man to hold it in for so long? Mom. Tongning cleared her throat. Don't worry, we have a nanny at home. Your babies won't go hungry. It's a deal. After speaking, Xia Yuling and Bai Lihua sent off the guests and carried the two babies away. The noisy living room suddenly fell silent. The living room was still decorated like it was in a fairy tale world. But Tongning took this opportunity to approach Imo Ting and hug him from behind. It's been a long time since I've spent so much time with you. Since that's the case, then don't waste Mom's efforts. After speaking, Imo Ting turned around and placed Tongning on the sofa. Do you know why Mom is doing this? Imo Ting leaned forward and lifted Tongning's hands above her head with one hand and lifted her dress with the other. Because she can tell that I can't wait to eat you up. How long had it been since the two of them had done this? Tongning couldn't remember clearly. All she knew was, when Imo Ting's hand brushed across her body, she trembled violently. The numb and itchy feeling was stronger than before. To the bedroom? Are you shy after becoming a mother? Imo Ting asked as he pressed the tip of his nose against hers. Tongning had nowhere to run, so all she could do was nod with a red face. Imo Ting did not say another word as he stood up, unbuttoned his shirt and threw it to one side. He then removed Tongning's dress. They still had two bodies without any excess fat, just like before. Imo Ting protected Tongning well. Her body was still in shape. A kiss followed. Tongning had no time to resist. All she could do was wrap her arms around Imo Ting's neck. Because of her passion, her heart felt empty. Soon, the restraints on her body disappeared. Tongning looked helplessly at Imo Ting until the emptiness was filled. She couldn't help but let out a satisfied sigh. Because she loved this man too much, she loved the feeling of Imo Ting inside her body. The combination easily made her excited and made her go crazy. Perhaps because he was afraid of hurting her, Imo Ting slowly rubbed against her. Tongning bit onto Imo Ting's shoulder and sighed. Ting, just like before. Huh. Imo Ting pretended not to hear. I want you to be like before, ruthless and forceful. Imo Ting did not respond. Instead, he used his actions to prove it. On the sofa, on the stairs, in the bathtub, on the sink. That night, there was only endless demand. There was no end. After the deed was over, Tongning lay limply in Imo Ting's arms. Her voice was a little hoarse. Have I paid back what I owed you over the past few months? Did you think this would be enough? How naive. That night, it was raining heavily. Just as Chen Xingyan finished her work and returned home with Zaheo, they found an old man waiting outside. Chen Xingyan was a little confused, but Zaheo directly said, Go in first. Chen Xingyan nodded her head and walked into the bedroom to give Zaheo and the old man some privacy. Zaheo, this woman? Father Yun asked curiously. She's my girlfriend. And Zaheo replied calmly. Uncle, why are you here? So you have a girlfriend. Are you going to get married? Father Yun sat down and began to mutter. But, didn't you promise? And Zaheo understood what Father Yun was trying to say. So he said patiently, Uncle, Yun Xian has already passed away for many years. I need to live my own life. What are you saying? It's not like we're interfering with your private life. But, I don't think it's appropriate. Yun Xian will be unhappy. After hearing this, Zaheo fell silent. He understood what Father Yun meant. He was afraid that after he and Chen Xingyan got married, he would no longer take care of them. I promised Yun Xian that I would take care of you, so I won't go back on my word. No, that's not what I meant. I simply can't accept that you found another girlfriend. Father Yun was a little surprised. Father Yun froze for a moment as his expression turned stiff. We always thought you would send us off in Yun Xian's place. In other words, Father Yun meant that Zaheo already belonged to Yun Xian, so he couldn't have any relationship with anyone else. If he did, he would be betraying Yun Xian. In reality, Zaheo had taken care of them for so many years, so it was normal for them to be worried. But, weren't they being a little too selfish? Firstly, Uncle, Yun Xian and I are only boyfriend and girlfriend. We are not married. Secondly, although I promised Yun Xian that I would take care of you, I also have my own life. My life cannot be interfered with by anyone. Do you understand what I mean? Father Yun did not respond. He quickly turned around and left. I'll come visit you another day. And Zaheo sighed and looked up at the bedroom door not too far away. Come out. Qin Xingyan did not expect Zaheo to know that she was eavesdropping, so she had no choice but to open the door and reveal herself. That person? It's Yun Xian's father. And Zaheo replied straightforwardly, I've been taking care of her parents on her behalf. In reality, at the time, and Zaheo thought that he was the one that caused Yun Xian's death, so it was only right for him to take care of her. But, in reality, Yun Xian's death was all because of Lan Shi's scheme. Are you going to take care of her from now on? Chun Xingyan asked. Are you unhappy? If he was a reasonable person, then it would be fine. But, he's obviously not. Chun Xingyan replied straightforwardly. He wants to control your life. I know. Leave this matter to me. You don't need to worry about it. Go have a shower. You have an interview tomorrow. And Zaheo, I'm someone that likes to give up, but I don't want to give up on you so easily. Don't do anything that makes me feel bad. Chapter 732. Okay. And Zaheo nodded. After receiving an answer, Chun Xingyan turned around and returned to her room. She quickly showered and climbed into bed. She felt, as long as she followed in Zaheo's instructions, she wouldn't be abandoned. She didn't know that this was a sign of insecurity. She just felt uncomfortable in her heart, but she couldn't say it out loud. And Zaheo realized he had hurt Chun Xingyan, so he put down the work in his hands and walked into the bedroom. In the dark, he reached out and pulled Chun Xingyan into his embrace. I'm sorry, I didn't protect your heart well. Chun Xingyan did not say a word. She simply bit in Zaheo's arm, leaving deep bite marks on it. No matter what happens, I won't give up on you or abandon you, but don't be the one to give up on me first. Chun Xingyan was still young. Her personality wasn't stable and her mind wasn't fully mature. He didn't know how far Chun Xingyan could go. After all, Yun Xian's parents' torture was not going to be temporary, but he was going to do everything he could to resolve it. Aha! Chun Xingyan actually didn't know how long she could last. Ever since she was young, she had never liked to force others, and she would never force herself for others. However, this was the first time that she had fallen in love with someone. She hoped that her love would not be given to a man who was not worth it. Translator, Uni Editor, Uni Hai Rue kept the news of Tongning giving birth under wraps, but the media managed to capture a photo of Xia Yuling carrying her child. As a result, the news of Tongning giving birth once again attracted the attention of the media. At this time, Mo Ting did not give a response. At this moment, the public were left to speculate. However, the company caught wind of the news, so they sent the contract through Lu Che and placed it on Mo Ting's desk. Because Mo Ting was Tongning's manager. CEO, these draft advertising contracts are all about babies. In other words, the public was reminding Mo Ting that it was time for Tongning to change. She was no longer associated with youth. After becoming a mother, many things would become different. Mo Ting did not lift his head as he pushed the contract onto the floor. From now on, don't leave things like this on my desk. I understand. Lu Che had guessed correctly. Mo Ting was definitely angry. Who said Tongning could only be a mother? Who said his wife was old? He would only let his Ning live even younger than before. Then the various rumors about Madam's birthplace. I will find a chance to clarify it, Mo Ting said before he continued to look at the documents in his hands. Actually, Tongning had already received news from Long Jie that plenty of baby products companies had already sent her offers and contracts. But Tongning's reaction was the same as Mo Ting's. Look at your figure. Your skin is tighter than before. It is no different from before. Long Jie complained as she ate. Why don't we ask boss to arrange for you to walk on the runway? Tongning tangled. Long tangled said without a Tongning did not say a word. She simply looked at the contract for concubine Ning and pretended not to care. Tong Ning nodded her head. She took these words to heart. However, as she watched Long Jie wolf down her food, she couldn't help but laugh. Are you gluttonous? I don't know why, but I've been enjoying them lately, Long Jie complained. Have you had a checkup? Are you pregnant? Pregnant? Hearing this, Long Jie froze. She had never considered this possibility. But after Bai Lihua suggested they move, her worries disappeared and she let nature take its course. If Tongning hadn't reminded her, she would have thought her stomach had malfunctioned. I will immediately go to the hospital for a checkup. Go ahead. Tongning nodded. Give Lu Che a phone call. Someone needs to accompany him. Okay. Long Jie quickly disappeared from Tongning's sight. Afterwards, Tongning fell into deep thought. She couldn't accept the public's perception of her after giving birth. As a result, she worked even harder to train her body. That night, Imo Ting returned home. Seeing Tongning still in the middle of her workout, he went to feed the baby milk. However, Tongning had already spotted him. As he carried the baby in his arms, she took a photo of the loving father and son. Imo Ting lifted his head. Seeing that Tongning had taken a photo, he casually said, "Take the photo you just took and announce it to the public." Tongning nodded her head. She understood what Imo Ting meant. They needed to quell the rumors going around, especially since they had previously been slandered by Hua Wenfeng. So, Tongning found Imo Ting's social media account and posted a photo of the father and son. At the same time, she added 2 words, Nanny Ting. As soon as the public saw the photo Tongning posted, they exploded. Tongning has given birth to Imo Ting's little Ting. It's actually her son. Tongning is indeed good at face slapping. The people outside are making wild guesses. Their children were sent to the hospital. They can rest now. Look at this picture. It's so comfortable. Daddy Ting is so loving. I can't believe it's not Tongning. What a bad review. Tongning's body has already gone out of shape, hasn't she? Imo Ting asked Tongning to post a photo like this because he wanted her to maintain a sense of mystery and not let the public see her as a mother. Above all, Tongning did not reveal to the public whether she had given birth to 1 or 2 children. Before returning to acting, I accepted an advertisement for you. After taking care of the children and putting them to bed, Imo Ting said to Tongning in the bathroom, "It's an internationally renowned cosmetics brand." This was the most amazing thing about Tongning. Logically speaking, after retreating from the industry for so long, Tongning's popularity should have fallen. Yet, she did not seem to be affected. This was all thanks to her 3 films. As films were released overseas, they were usually released later than in China. So, The Lost Relative was currently being released overseas. With her influence overseas, it was naturally easier for her to secure an international endorsement. Why did you make such an arrangement? Because I want to prove to everyone that my woman is still as glamorous as ever. Tongning nodded her head as she worked out with Mo Ting. At the same time, the endorsement also took place. Of course, Imo Ting's eyes were as sharp as ever. The reason why he fought so hard for Tongning to secure this commercial was because the commercial was designed to portray a European and American woman. It would showcase Tongning's energy to the public. At that time, he would tell all the manufacturers that this was his woman and she was no different from before. Chapter 733. Long Jie was now over 2 months pregnant. This was perhaps the best news that Tongning had heard in a while. Thinking about how Long Jie and Lu Che had finally achieved their long-awaited child, she couldn't help but feel happy for them. In order to take good care of the babies, Long Jie put down her work and returned home to wait for the birth. As soon as Lu Che's mother heard about this, she immediately flew over from another city. It seemed she had already decided to take care of Long Jie for a long time. At this time, Tongning and Imo Ting's babies were almost 60 days old. Seeing the 2 rascals starting to grow sparse hair, Tongning stretched out her hand and patted her brother on the head. Originally, Imo Ting wanted them to start weaning from now on because Tongning still needed to return to acting. But Tongning rejected Ting's suggestion. The babies need to drink breast milk for their immune system to improve. These are our babies. I can give them the best I can. My sons won't be that weak. I have breast milk now. Why can't I give it to our sons? Even if I return to filming a commercial in a month, I can still squeeze out breast milk and store it in a scientific manner. That way, it won't affect the baby's nutrition, Tongning replied with a smile. Ting had no choice but to pull Tongning into his embrace. These two rascals have it easy. Hey, this is your son, Tongning said as she placed her hand on Ting's chest. Don't you think some people don't know what they're doing? Last night, you stole a lot of food from our son. Ting did not say another word. He simply carried Tongning in his arms. They wouldn't dare to say anything. Because of her work on a few variety shows, Chen Xingyan was quite popular. Of course, the main reason why her career was so smooth was because she was Ting's sister. Even if outsiders wanted to make things difficult for her, they had to consider whether they could afford to offend Ting. Although Ting had never publicly acknowledged Chen Xingyan, he never denied her existence either. The variety show that day was a talk show. Because of its novel perspective, it received a lot of attention. Chen Xingyan was one of the guests. And Zaheo did not stay by Chen Xingyan's side. Now that she had her own personal assistant, and Zaheo allowed Chen Xingyan to do things on her own. Backstage, Chen Xingyan and the other guests shared the same makeup artist. As they were of the same age, the other guests all approached to greet them. However, Chen Xingyan was not familiar with them at all. Seeing Chen Xingyan's indifferent expression, the woman awkwardly withdrew her hand. She then stood to one side and muttered, I wonder how many lifetimes of luck she has had to actually be Ting's sister. So what if she's Ting's sister? Take a look at Tongning. Even though she was personally groomed by Ting, she is still facing anger because of giving birth. She is the wife of a wealthy family. Why would she care about being famous? Don't forget, this industry is all about fame and fortune. In a few years, when Tongning is old and no longer as beautiful as she once was, when you look at her again, she will simply be a disgruntled housewife. That makes sense. After giving birth, I'm afraid the stretch marks on Tongning's tummy would be big enough to squash mosquitoes. Rumor has it that Hai Rue even rejected a few commercials from international brands. Are they not satisfied with their age? Does she think she can defy the natural order? She can't escape it. As soon as a man has a child, he loses interest in women. Just wait and see. No matter how loving a couple is in the entertainment industry, they will still go their separate ways. Originally, Chen Xingyan wanted to listen to them with one ear and out the other. But these two bitches continued to talk behind her back. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore. Wait until you guys reach Tongning's position before you say that she is outdated. You won't even have the chance to be outdated. The two women turned around and glared at Chen Xingyan. They then rolled their eyes and scoffed. What did they mean by Tongning's figure had changed? Was she outdated? She had just seen Tongning, and she was obviously prettier than before. How could these people talk behind her back like this? But the industry was indeed laughing at Tongning for not being satisfied with her age, who gave birth to a child and still thought they were a beautiful young woman. If you weren't Ting's sister, do you think there would be a place for you here? You are merely a stunt double. Do you think you are worthy? Chen Xingyan's assistant was good at doing things, but she didn't know how to argue. Especially when faced with a situation like this, Chen Xingyan felt a little restricted. At this time, Zaheo appeared in the doorway of the waiting room and said to the women, since you know she is Ting's sister, you should stay away from her. Chen Xingyan turned around and saw it was her man. Her heart was filled with excitement. Do you want to know what happened to the last artist that offended Chen Xingyan? The two women were obviously shocked as they quickly packed their things and headed to another waiting room. I thought you weren't going to come? Did you think I wouldn't be worried? Zaheo asked helplessly as he crossed his arms. Chen Xingyan smiled sweetly as she pounced on Zaheo. I knew you doted on me. I didn't want to get angry, but these people's mouths should be sewn shut. They said Ningjia was getting old and had stretch marks on her stomach. I couldn't hold back any longer, so I said a few words. Does Tongning need you to stick up for her? Zaheo shook his head helplessly. She is used to these kinds of storms and is much more composed than you. Fine, forget about hugging her. If someone sees this, the news will write nonsense again. I'm not that famous yet, but you are Emoting's sister. Chun Xingyan was not happy to hear this, even though it was an undeniable truth. But because of the argument that night, Chen Xingyan had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. It wasn't like they didn't like her and wanted to mess with her, even though she was Emoting's sister. It didn't take long before Chen Xingyan arrived at the recording studio to participate in the show. After all, she was used to situations like this from a young age, so she was more at home than the other newcomers. But because of this, the other guests hated her even more. 10 p.m., Chen Xingyan finally finished her show. Her assistant handed her a jacket and prepared to meet up with Zaheo outside. But as soon as Chen Xingyan entered the bathroom, she found herself locked inside. Worst of all, she was thrown into a cubicle and had feces poured all over her. Chen Xingyan couldn't avoid it in time, nor could she open the door. All she could do was give her assistant a phone call. As soon as her assistant heard the news, she immediately contacted Zaheo and explained the situation. Go to the nearest store and buy a change of clothes. Okay, Mr. And afterwards, Zaheo barged into the women's bathroom, smashed open the cubicle door and pulled Chen Xingyan out. He then took her to the tap and washed her. Why do you always encounter situations like this? Why can't you learn to behave? If you're not as smart as Tongning, then don't go around offending people. And Zaheo was so angry that his eyes almost spat fire. Do you want me to be constantly on guard? Chapter 734. Chen Xingyan was no stranger to this scene. Last time, Annie. Thinking of these unpleasant memories, Chen Xingyan crossed her arms and allowed Zaheo to wash her. It didn't take long before her assistant arrived to buy a change of clothes. The three of them spent 40 minutes in the bathroom, but they still couldn't get rid of the strong smell on Chen Xingyan's body. As a dabbler, it was normal for her to be pranked. Thinking about her past, it was obvious that the industry would always support the strong and step on the weak. This was something that would never change. Chen Xingyan had already fallen for so many tricks in the past, yet she was still being schemed against. No wonder Zaheo was disappointed. Her growth was too slow. After returning home, Chen Xingyan locked herself in the bathroom for 4 hours to freshen up. During this time, Zaheo contacted the person in charge of the program and told them to keep this matter a secret. He also told them to find out who the mastermind was. But it wasn't easy. By the time Chen Xingyan stepped out of the bathroom, it was already 3:30 a.m. Seeing Zaheo still waiting in the living room, she lowered her head and walked over. In the dark, Zaheo wrapped his arm around her waist and pulled her onto his lap. As their eyes met, Chen Xingyan felt like she had been wronged. I don't think I'll ever be able to be as calculative as Ning Jie. It would be too tiring. I don't think I'm suited for this industry. Forget it. Zaheo sighed as he pinched her nose. Since Chen Xingyan couldn't become strong on her own and protect herself, then he could only become stronger to protect her. At times, he knew he was being too forceful. If you don't like acting and don't like doing these jobs, you can stop doing them in the future. I can? Who asked me to worry? Zaheo replied helplessly. Chen Xingyan was silent for a moment. She suddenly felt that she had given up too little in this relationship. She wasn't willing to do anything and didn't want to change anything. It seemed, and Zaheo had always been accommodating her. I'll hold on for a little longer. If I really can't do it anymore, I'll let you know. Chen Xingyan never imagined that news of Emoting's sister being splashed with feces would spread like wildfire the next day. Chen Xingyan's name wasn't important. What was important was that she was Emoting's sister. This little stunt double was previously rumored to have drunk urine, and now she's been splashed with feces. She's definitely faded with that aspect. Haha, who said otherwise? Emoting's sister doesn't seem like much. Compared to Emoting and his wife, the difference is like heaven and earth. Emoting never expected that Chen Xingyan would create such news. It seemed, no matter when she made it to the top, it was always because she was being bullied. and Zaheo didn't seem to be a good manager. Originally, Ting had no intention of getting involved in Qian Xingyan's matter. But he suddenly received a phone call from Tongning. Xingyan is, after all, your sister. Even if Hai Rui doesn't say anything, we can't just stand by and watch. But this kind of thing, how to deal with it? Don't tell me you're going to watch the Mo family get bullied like this? Ting raised an eyebrow. He then instructed Feng Yu to contact Zaheo and tell him that if he couldn't protect Qin Xingyan, he should hand over her contract. Hai Rui wouldn't allow their artists to suffer like this. Meanwhile, Zaheo made use of his connections and finally found out who the culprit was. But the troublesome thing was, this little artist had a powerful sister backing her up. As an internationally famous film star, this little artist's sister was one of the most powerful characters. This was probably the reason why the culprit was brave enough to make a move on Qin Xingyan. She had a powerful background. This artist had previously signed with Hai Rui. Afterwards, her career expanded overseas. But after her contract expired, she established her own agency and signed with Hollywood. But she no longer acted and became a producer. Although her focus was overseas, she was still famous in the country. But she was rarely seen in the domestic scene. After finding out how powerful the culprit was, Qin Xingyan stopped Zaheo from getting even with her. You previously gave up everything you had for me. What are you going to give up this time? Isn't it just being splashed with feces? It's okay. I can endure it. And Zaheo looked deeply into Qin Xingyan's eyes. I will definitely get revenge for you. If I say I will do it. You don't need to worry about how I do it. Qin Xingyan looked at Zaheo in seriousness for a moment and finally nodded her head. I will try my best to be good from now on. But Ting can't ignore this matter. You were set up because of Tongning, and Zaheo scoffed. And Zaheo humphed. Even if he wasn't a good manager, Ting's brother wasn't any better either. So, and Zaheo directly replied to Ting through Feng Yu. The culprit said that Tongning's stretch marks could crush a bunch of mosquitoes, that she would age in a few years, and that she would be abandoned by you. What he was trying to say was that Ting didn't protect his woman's reputation well and didn't give the public much confidence. After hearing this, Ting smiled meaningfully and told Feng Yu, contact the CEO of Yixing Film and Television. Her sister has provoked my sister. Tell her to show some attitude. Sister. This was the first time Feng Yu had heard Ting say this word. Of course, Feng Yu understood that the reason Ting wanted to get even with the culprit was not because of his sister, but because of his wife, who asked the culprit's sister to say that Tongning had stretch marks on her body. Although a lot of people looked at Tongning in this way. Bai Yu had already given her a phone call asking her to make Bai Linlin apologize, but, Sister Yu wants you to go personally. Bai Linlin angrily kicked the table. After fuming for quite some time, she finally said to her manager, go find out what that bitch has been doing lately. Okay, the manager assumed that Bai Linlin had thought things through, so she was overjoyed and immediately went to find out what was going on. Bai Linlin scoffed. She wanted to see if her sister would care about her if she offended Hai Rui too much. Tongning understood Qian Xingyan's current situation. Although no one dared to humiliate her in public, there were plenty of people that made things difficult for her behind her back. After all, as Ting's sister, while she enjoyed being a deterrent, she also had to bear the pain of her identity. Ting had always been ruthless in the industry. When it came to dealing with other artists, he never showed any mercy. So, there were plenty of people that hated Ting. But, because of Ting's capabilities, they never dared to act recklessly. But Qin Xingyan was different. She wasn't an artist from Hai Rui, nor did she have any backing. Although her manager was in Zaheo, this alone wasn't enough to protect her. If someone wanted to play tricks in the dark, no one would be able to tell. After the news of the manure incident spread, Qin Xingyan remained silent for a few days. Even though Zaheo was by her side, she still felt very upset that she couldn't do anything at all. She still had to attend a live broadcast tomorrow. Just thinking about the ridiculing looks of people made her feel uncomfortable. So, no matter how big the event was, she didn't want to attend. And Zaheo sensed her depression. So he pulled her onto his lap and asked gently, "You don't want to go to tomorrow's event?" "Aha, I don't want to be ridiculed. You're no longer the Chen Xingyan I used to know." Where did the Chen Xingyan that was willing to flip the world upside down and make others unhappy go? After hearing this, Chen Xingyan scoffed. "I'm afraid I'll cause you trouble." After all, and Zaheo had used everything he had to get revenge for her. She didn't want to experience it all over again. Respect is something that needs to be given to yourself. If you want others to respect you, you need to respect yourself first. Just go on the show tomorrow. If the sky falls, I will hold it up for you. And Zaheo comforted as he hugged Chen Xingyan lovingly. He knew that Chen Xingyan had changed a lot since they started dating. The Chen Xingyan that was once free and unrestrained was now. She had become restrained and had completely lost her sense of self. Late at night, and Zaheo was sitting in the study room reading through some documents when he received a phone call from Tongning to confirm Chen Xingyan's schedule. "Is there a live broadcast tonight?" "Yes, 8 p.m. "I'll go have a look and give her some encouragement," Tongning suggested. Okay. He was more than happy to have someone to protect Chen Xingyan with him. Of course, Tongning didn't anticipate that Bai Lin would appear the next day. She simply felt, at a time like this, she should act like a sister-in-law. At least, the Mo family weren't people that could be easily bullied. Behind them, Mo Ting overheard Tongning's phone call and couldn't help but ask, "Do you want to go protect Chen Xingyan?" "You protect me, and I'll protect my family." Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply patted Tongning on the head in agreement. Plus, if Chen Xingyan continues to be bullied, wouldn't you be embarrassed as well? How can a member of the Mo family be bullied by others? Okay, so, Tongning wouldn't be attending an official event tomorrow. She was simply there to support them. Of course, before the commercial was filmed, she wasn't going to casually appear in front of the media. Since they were already mocking her for her stretch marks, she was going to give them a good slap in the face. However, as the person in question, Chen Xingyan had no idea about Bai Lin and had no idea that Tongning was going to appear at the event. This show was going to be fun to watch. The next afternoon, Chen Xingyan arrived at the television station accompanied by Zaheo. However, as soon as the passers-by saw Chen Xingyan, they all giggled. Chen Xingyan was, of course, embarrassed. But Zaheo directly asked the people that were giggling, "What's so funny?" Chapter 736. The woman didn't expect Zaheo to retaliate, so she quickly walked away. Of course, Chen Xingyan's mood improved a little at Zaheo's direct protection. Zaheo still felt it wasn't enough, so he wrapped his arm around Chen Xingyan's shoulder and pulled her into his embrace. "There's no need." Zaheo looked down at her and simply said one word, "Let's go." Chen Xingyan smiled and stopped struggling. At this moment, all she could see was the man protecting her. No one was taller and more powerful than him. Soon, the couple entered the waiting room. Perhaps because of Zaheo, the makeup artist was extremely polite to Chen Xingyan. Even if she didn't respect Zaheo, she still respected her. "Okay, you've already escorted me here safely. I'm experienced with live broadcasts. You can go back to work." Chen Xingyan remembered that Zaheo had an important meeting that night. If it wasn't for her, he wouldn't have been in such a hurry. "Go, don't be late because of me." Zaheo looked down at Chen Xingyan and then at the makeup artist. Obviously, the look in his eyes was different. One was gentle, while the other was stern and filled with warning. The makeup artist smiled. This made Zaheo relax a little. She wasn't a bad person. "In that case, I'll get going first. Tell Little Seven to give me a call later." "Okay." Chen Xingyan nodded. Little Seven was the name of Chen Xingyan's assistant. Perhaps because of Annie, Zaheo found this assistant for her. She was very capable, but she wasn't slick enough and wasn't smart enough. She simply wanted to take care of her daily life, so there was no need to find someone too slick. Chen Xingyan already had him. Afterwards, Nzaheo turned and left. The makeup artist picked up her makeup tools and said enviously, although she didn't sign with a good agency, with Nzaheo's care, it's worth it. Chen Xingyan looked into the mirror and nodded her head. She didn't want to join Hai Rui or Hollywood. As long as she was Nzaheo's only artist, that was enough. As the live broadcast was scheduled to start at 8 p.m., Chen Xingyan had plenty of time to get her makeup done. However, before her makeup was even halfway done, Bai Linlin's manager pushed open the door. She peeked inside to confirm that Chen Xingyan was indeed inside before she pushed the door open. "Hello, Miss Chun. Can I have a few minutes of your time?" Chen Xingyan had no idea that this was Bai Linlin's manager, nor did she know that Bai Linlin was the one that splashed feces at her. So, she directly asked, "What is it?" "The matter is, why are you wasting your breath on her?" Bai Linlin walked past her manager and interrupted her polite words. She walked into the makeup room and leaned against another mirror. "We've met before. My sister asked me to come and apologize." When Chen Xingyan saw Bai Linlin in person, she finally remembered the reason. "Give me the flowers." Seeing Chen Xingyan's expressionless face, Bai Linlin stretched out her hand towards her manager. Bai Linlin's manager immediately handed the bouquet of flowers she had hidden behind her back to Bai Linlin. After receiving the flowers, Bai Linlin directly threw them at Chen Xingyan. "I'm sorry." Perhaps no one had ever seen an apology like this. She was obviously here to cause trouble. Chen Xingyan looked at the flowers on her body and knew that the woman was here to cause trouble. So, she threw the flowers away and said, "Get out of here while I don't want to make a move." "Are you angry?" Bai Linlin giggled. "I thought you had some guts. But, in the end, you still complained to Emoting. All I did was say that Tongning was old. Did you have to make such a big deal out of it? Hey, did Tongning tell you not to say that she's old? But, this is the truth. She's already given birth to a child. Is it possible for her to become a virgin again?" After hearing this, Chen Xingyan glared at the man in front of her. But Bai Linlin wasn't afraid. She replied straightforwardly, "If you can't win against me, then go look for my sister. Can you be any more shameless? If you have the ability, then return the suffering you've suffered. Let me tell you, I came here today to scold Tongning. I want to see how far you can go to suck up to her." Chen Xingyan endured because the woman had a powerful background. She didn't want to rely on Hai Rui and cause trouble for Nzaheo. But the more indifferent she was, the more outrageous Bai Linlin became. The event was about to start, but before Tongning's makeup was complete, Bai Linlin continued to cause trouble. When it came to shamelessness, Tongning couldn't compare to Bai Linlin. Do you know what people call Tongning? They call her watermelon skin because her stomach has the same pattern as a watermelon. Chen Xingyan couldn't take it anymore as she grabbed onto Bai Linlin's shirt. But Bai Linlin wasn't afraid as she glared back at Chen Xingyan. "I want to say that Tongning is a slut." "Really?" "Of course." Bai Linlin replied so quickly that she didn't notice that Chen Xingyan didn't actually say really. As soon as Bai Linlin's manager saw Tongning, her face turned pale as she hid in the back, not daring to make a sound. "I'm a slut. How come I didn't know?" Tongning asked in amusement. Hearing this, Bai Linlin finally realized that Tongning had personally arrived at the waiting room. Bai Linlin was stunned as she turned and looked at her manager, asking, "Why didn't you tell me?" However, Tongning wasn't someone to be trifled with. She immediately said to Lu Che, "Close the door." Lu Che nodded his head and closed the door. Tongning walked over to the waiting area and sat down. She then asked Bai Linlin, "How am I a slut? How am I a slut?" "Miss Bai, I'm sure you have plenty of time to talk to me." Not only Chen Xingyan, but even the makeup artist was shocked by Tongning's sudden appearance. But Tongning didn't forget to remind her, "Continue with your makeup. Aren't you going on stage in 20 minutes? The makeup artist nodded and continued to apply Chen Xingyan's makeup as she watched the commotion unfold. Bai Linlin gulped nervously. For some reason, the arrogance she had earlier completely disappeared. No matter how arrogant she was, when she saw Tongning, she couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine and get goosebumps. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Tongning asked as she lifted her head. That is. I'm sure you haven't forgotten about Song Xian, who has just been sent to prison. Tongning suddenly interrupted. I'm an expert at returning an eye for an eye. You wouldn't dare. Bai Linlin realized she was trembling as she spoke. I can't believe there's a private bathroom here. Tongning mumbled as she looked at the bathroom. Tongning looked at the small room and mumbled. Why don't you have a taste of feces splashed all over your body? No, that's too troublesome. You'll dirty other people's hands. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.